Chapter 1005. The cultivation of this world is the immortal primordial spirit. Liu pointed between his eyebrows, and an avatar rushed out instantly, turning into a speck of light in the void. My origin of matter is the sublimation of the 5 elements qi into the black and yellow qi. And the origin of order is the Tao of order represented by the yin and yang qi. The path I take is the combination of essence, qi, and spirit to form the origin. The path of immortal primordial spirit in this world is actually the fusion of qi cultivation and spirit refinement. He stretched out his hand, and the avatar that flew out landed in his palm. Using myself as an experiment, I can be considered to have invested a lot. Liu smiled and shook his head, as if he was dedicating himself to science. In fact, it was just a thought of an avatar. Even if there was a problem in the experiment, causing the avatar to be annihilated, it could be recovered in the blink of an eye. There was no capital at all. Then let's use this avatar to verify the Tao that I deduced. The speck of light in his palm suddenly exploded with a ray of light. This ray of light was very strange, invisible, and without substance. It existed, but also seemed to not exist, as if it was the chaos before the heaven and earth were created. In the end, it is still incomplete. If there is not even this bit of light, then it is the real chaos. Liu sighed and pointed at the speck of light. In a trance, a violent roar sounded. It also seemed that there was never any sound. Boom! The intertwining black and white light lit up, and order was born. Immediately, the 5 elements flowed, light and darkness alternated, and all things were born. It was as if a world was born in Liu's palm. Not enough. Still not enough. Liu shook his head. This is only my own strength, and it has nothing to do with this world. Waving his hand to withdraw the avatar, Liu frowned. This world's calamity, good fortune, merit, saint virtue, karma, luck, and other Tao laws, I am still unable to integrate them into my body. Could it be that I have to experience it personally? To create the 2 Tao of matter and order in this world, I am afraid that I really have to practice it personally to achieve it. My essence has long transcended this world. So, the current me actually doesn't exist in this world. How can someone who doesn't exist create a great Tao for this world? People who watch movies can't change the plot. Unless he was an actor or even a director. Of course, Liu was referring to the creation of the great Tao of order and the great Tao of matter. It wasn't that he couldn't mess around. After all, he had already done it, hadn't he? Creating a grand Tao is naturally not the goal. However, if I don't create a grand Tao, I won't be able to obtain the laws of this world. I won't be able to comprehend the primordial chaos. Liu shook his head helplessly. So, this world will have another transmigrator. Zhang Xian flicked his wrist, and a spirit clone flew out from his glabella. My divine clone's level is still too high. I have to wash it clean before I can cultivate it again. With a wave of his hand, the soul essence of the avatar instantly dropped. From transcending the world and possessing the characteristics of chaos, he fell to the level of mortals. This is the same as an immortal descending to the mortal world. Liu smiled and shook his head. Luckily, it's only a spirit clone. This feeling of dropping in level is really unbearable. Since I'm an immortal descending to the mortal world, I have to be reincarnated. Only then can I completely fit into this world and not be seen as an alien by the heavens and earth and be rejected, or even sent down a heavenly tribulation. This spirit clone was only at the mortal realm. It wasn't like His Majesty Emperor Yu who ran rampant in all the world. It couldn't withstand a heavenly tribulation. My main body will hide in the void and use this spirit clone to comprehend the cultivation process of this world. This is also an experience and also a life. Liu chuckled and waved his hand, sending this spirit clone into Yu Yutian, into the territory of Zhongzhou. Back then, when I was still a loser, I had a thought. How great would it be if I could choose to reincarnate myself? Now? Haha, then I can choose to reincarnate however I want, right? Li Yu's main body turned into nothingness and chaos, disappearing from this part of the universe. The spirit clone turned into an undetectable speck of light and floated down from the void, landing in the land of Zhongzhou. Zhongzhou's Luojing. This was one of the two capitals of Zhongzhou's 13 states. Other than Luojing, the other was Anjing. What Luojing and Anjing? Aren't they just Luoyang and Chang'an? Big Boss Li cursed silently as the speck of light descended from the sky. This Zhongzhou Empire's royal family is also surnamed Li. Even if I reincarnate, I have no intention of changing my surname. The undetectable light flashed and disappeared, instantly landing in Luojing's imperial palace. At this moment, in a great hall of the imperial palace, a graceful and luxurious woman was giving birth. Why isn't she giving birth yet? Why isn't she giving birth yet? Imperial physician Fan, how is it now? A middle-aged man in a dragon robe looked nervously at the tightly shut palace door, anxiety appearing on his dignified face. This was the current emperor of the Zhongzhou Empire. In the 15 years since he ascended the throne, the Zhongzhou emperor had worked hard to govern the country and lived with the people. He could be called a wise ruler. Unfortunately, this wise ruler still had no children. He had a lot of daughters but not a single son. Seeing that the huge empire was facing a situation where there was no successor, all the knowledgeable people in the empire became anxious. Once the emperor had no children, the succession of the throne would be a big problem. It might even lead to the instability of the country and cause chaos in the world. Fortunately, the imperial concubine had good news. Therefore, the child that was about to be born attracted the attention of countless people in the empire. Your Majesty, the imperial concubine is having a difficult birth, I'm afraid. At this moment, a female official ran out with a pale face and reported to the emperor in a panic. What? The emperor was shocked and his face was pale. The heavens above, the previous emperors above, please protect my child and let him be born safely. Boom. At this moment there was a violent roar in the void. A dazzling sun descended from the sky, illuminating the entire world. At this moment, countless people who were paying attention to the palace and the imperial concubine's birth saw this sudden phenomenon and jumped up in shock. Ong roar! The cries of dragons and phoenixes resounded through the sky. Under the shocked gazes of countless people, this brilliant sun fell from the sky and landed in the imperial concubine's palace. Gua gua! A baby's cry sounded, the wind and clouds surged, lightning flashed, and thunder rumbled. Son! My son! My son is born! The crown prince is born! The emperor was so happy that he laughed and shouted to the sky. The sun comes into my arms, the dragon and phoenix cry, the wind and thunder surge. The birth of the crown prince has such a phenomenon. Heaven bless my emperor! Heaven bless my country! In an instant, countless people shouted and bowed to the ground. Name him you, Crown Prince. Bestow Imperial Consort Hua 100 boxes of pearls and jade. The emperor laughed and ordered, Pardon the world! Rejoice! Long live the emperor! Thus, Big Boss Li was officially reincarnated. Then, Big Boss Li sealed his divine sense. Damn! I actually wet the bed? No, this must not be spread, otherwise I will be laughed to death. Chapter 1006. This is a tragedy. Liu looked up at the sky and sighed. I really want to know how those soul transmigrators who were reincarnated to this world, how did they survive their infancy? Experiencing the infancy again, and with clear memories of the infancy, that kind of horror was simply indescribable. Wetting the bed, all right, this word had already become Big Boss Li's taboo. Only by sealing off one's divine sense and completely acting like an ignorant infant could he live on. The avatar and the main body felt the same and were also synchronized. Thus, Big Boss Li's main body directly sealed off the avatar's divine sense, so that what the eye doesn't see, the heart doesn't grieve over. When Big Boss Li's avatar reincarnated, Dubai was also at the crossroads of life. I am still alive? After leisurely waking up, Dubai shockingly discovered that he was actually still alive. Didn't I suffer from chi deviation when I was visualizing the moonlight spirit cleansing technique, and my soul was burned by the moonlight fire? Why am I still alive? Dubai struggled to get up, and looking at the pure white jade cave in front of him, he was shocked. What is this place? The pure white jade cave in front of him was spotless, without any impurities, and was incomparably pure. However, this pure white, the extreme white, gave birth to an indescribable feeling of oppression in one's heart. Sheep-fat white jade? Everything in this cave, including the floor and walls, is made of pure sheep-fat white jade? And there isn't even a single gap, it is completely one. Dubai opened his mouth wide, and for a long time he could not close it. This cave was carved out of sheep-fat white jade. But was there such a large piece of sheep-fat white jade in this world? It is impossible for the mortal world to have such a thing. The only possibility is that it is a cultivator. This must be a cultivator's cave. Dubai took a deep breath, and his heart was somewhat excited. After cultivating with the old Taoist for 10 years, Dubai had heard the old Taoist mention countless times that there were no longer any real cultivators in the middle state. The old Taoist had spent his entire life trying to find other cultivators, but now one had appeared before him? The fact that I'm still alive after going berserk means that this senior must have saved me. Dubai hurriedly bowed to the ground respectfully. Senior, thank you for saving my life. Dubai is eternally grateful. After kowtowing and calling out, the cave was completely silent. There was no response at all. Could it be that this senior isn't here, eh? At this time, Dubai suddenly realized that his body seemed to be very different from before. His body was robust, and his zhenqi was exuberant. However, he had only cleared 2 meridians. Moreover, his height and physique were slightly different from before. What's going on? Dubai was shocked. He quickly reached out and searched his body. Sure enough, this is no longer my body. For cultivators, the soul is their foundation. It wasn't a big deal to change his body. At most, I'll just have to spend a bit more effort on tempering my body and nurturing my chi. I'll just have to start all over again. But Dubai felt a wave of doubt. I went berserk and caused my soul to burn. What was damaged was only my soul. Since this senior was able to save my divine soul, why did you change my body? Isn't this superfluous? The actions of a senior expert were definitely hard to fathom. Unable to make sense of it, Dubai didn't bother about it anymore. After all, he had already died once. It was already fortunate that he was still alive. As long as he was alive, changing his body was a small matter. Senior's saving grace. Dubai is eternally grateful. May Senior grant me an audience. Dubai shouted towards the cave again. However, after this call, there was still no response from the cave. This senior isn't here? Dubai furrowed his brows in puzzlement and walked towards the depths of the cave. Along the way, his eyes were filled with pure white. It was so white that it made one's heart palpitate. There's actually no one? And this cave doesn't even have any daily utensils. It doesn't look like there's anyone here. What's going on? Dubai's heart was filled with doubts. He walked around the entire cave and searched every nook and cranny of the cave. Not only did he not find anyone, there weren't even any utensils. It was completely an empty cave. More importantly, this cave didn't even have a door, so there was no way out. What's going on? Although Dubai had cultivated with the old Taoist for 10 years, he had also reached the stage of nourishing his soul. But at this stage, he still needed to eat. If he was trapped in this cave and couldn't get out, wouldn't he starve to death in a few days? Since this senior saved me, it's definitely not to let me starve to death here. There must be a way to leave. Don't tell me, this is a test? Bai suddenly recalled some stories and legends that the old Taoist had told him. Some senior experts, in order to select their successors, would bestow some opportunities. But along with the opportunities came a test. Sometimes, a slight mistake would cause one to miss out on a peerless opportunity. This place, don't tell me it's a test? A test to see if I can walk out of this place? Bai calmed himself down. There must be a way out, it's just that I haven't found it yet. Indeed, a senior expert. His methods are indeed profound and unfathomable. Hence, Bai threw himself into this test, and searched the entire cave carefully. There's indeed something. After searching the cave carefully, Bai discovered a secret compartment in the hall where he had awoken. Opening the secret compartment, there was a white jade box inside. Is this the opportunity left behind by the senior expert? A sense of eagerness arose in his heart as Bai hurriedly opened this white jade box. Opening the box, there was a white jade scroll inside. Carefree technique? On the jade scroll, 3 majestic ancient words appeared in front of Bai. On these 3 words, an aura of supremacy surged up, as though it was the supreme being of heaven and earth. Supreme and only I am supreme. Unique. Unique. Pure, ultimate and unique. This is actually a technique inheritance? I wonder if it's stronger or weaker than the scripture of returning to nature that my master gave me. Bai was a little excited as he hurriedly opened the scroll. Blank? It's blank inside? Not even a single word? This scroll was made up of 9 jade scrolls. After opening it, there was not a single word inside. This made Bai very shocked. Since the senior has given me the inheritance, how could there not be any words left behind? Could this be the legendary Jade Scroll? The Jade Scroll that can only be read with divine sense? Bai suddenly remembered that the old Taoist had once said that many years ago, the secret cultivation techniques were not written in words, they were recorded in jade scrolls with divine sense information. Could this be an ancient senior? Bai's heart became more excited as he hurriedly placed the jade scroll between his eyebrows and released his divine sense to read the information inside. I am the great carefree demon master. I have achieved creation, eternity, transcended heaven and earth, great carefree. Due to fate, I was born out of gratitude. I have left my way of achieving Tao, waiting for the fated one. A mighty voice resounded in the sea of divine sense. Demon master? Hearing this voice, Bai was dumbfounded. Chapter 1007. This cultivation technique is actually a demonic cultivation technique? This is actually the inheritance left behind by the great freedom demon master? Bai's heart was in turmoil. Prove creation, obtain eternity, transcend heaven and earth. This great freedom demon master is actually so terrifying? Simply unbelievably strong. Although Bai did not know what prove creation, obtain eternity was, but just hearing this realm, he could imagine how terrifying it was. Who could achieve eternity? The returning to truth scripture, that the old Taoist imparted to him, the highest realm could only be cultivated to Jin Dan, but Jin Dan experts could also die. Jin Dan was not eternal. As for transcending heaven and earth, it was even more unimaginable. The great freedom demon master's realm is so profound, this cultivation technique must be even more profound than the returning to truth scripture. Although it's a demonic cultivation technique, I can take a look at it first. His divine sense continued to enter the jade slip, communicating with the information left behind in the jade slip. What is Tao? What is Buddha? What is devil? Bai was taken aback by the first sentence of the book. That's right. What is Tao? What is Buddha? What is devil? I followed Master to cultivate Tao for 10 years, cultivating Tao every day, but what is Tao? Unintentional is Tao. The heart is Buddha. Idealism is devil. Tao says inaction, Buddha says meditation, and devil says only oneself. Dubai had just started to have doubts when the information on the jade slip immediately gave him the answer. Tao is peaceful and inaction. This saying of unintentional and inaction hit the nail on the head, hitting the nail on the head. I don't know much about Buddha and devil, but this person equates Buddha, Tao, and devil. Could it be that these three are on the same level? Dubai was extremely shocked. The old Taoist had once said that those unorthodox Tao were cruel, violent, bloody, and terrifying, their methods cruel to the extreme. Could it be that such a terrifying thing was actually the same existence as Tao and Buddha? With doubts, Dubai continued reading. Immortal primordial spirit, eternal will. Regardless of Buddha, Tao, or devil, in the end of cultivation, the body will merge with Tao, prove creation, and obtain eternity. Everything originates from Tao and also returns to Tao. Buddhism, Taoism, and fiendish Taoism all return to the same place. There is no difference in superiority. My Tao is based on one's heart and one's self. It is not limited to material things. Heaven and earth cannot stop my heart, and time cannot stop my will. There was no heaven, no earth, no God, no Buddha, no Tao, no devil. Only me. Seeing this, Dubai was extremely shocked. Just what kind of person was this great freedom demon master? How could he be so arrogant? Other than himself, he actually didn't care about anyone else. The more surprised he was, the more curious he became. Moreover, this demon didn't seem to be as ferocious, terrifying, and bloody as he had imagined. Dubai continued reading. The path of cultivation is divided into two major levels: Qi refinement and immortal spirit. Qi cultivation is further divided into 7 stages: soul nurturing, soul strengthening, astral projection, Qi drawing, divine soul, Jin Dan, and Yin spirit. The primordial spirit stages are divided into primordial spirit, yang spirit, heavenly man, Tao integration, creation, and eternal. Seeing this, Dubai was scared silly. Creation. Eternity. At this moment, Dubai already knew what kind of existence this great freedom demon master was. The highest realm in the scripture of returning to nature was Jin Dan. But this Jin Dan realm, according to the freedom technique, did not even complete the first step of cultivation. Eternity was the second step to the extreme. According to the Mahasvara Dharma, creation was the creator and God of creation who could create a complete world, create heaven and earth, create all things, and create all living beings. As for eternity, it was already beyond heaven and earth, the highest realm of immortality when heaven and earth decay, immortality when the sun and moon die. So, this is the real demon. Seeing the introduction of the freedom technique, Dubai's heart was in turmoil. Since Buddhism, Taoism, and devil are essentially the same, since they are different paths to the same destination, what's wrong with me cultivating this freedom technique? With this thought, Dubai's heart no longer rejected devil arts. A true inheritance of the great Tao that pointed directly to eternity was countless times stronger than the scripture of returning to nature. With such a precious gem in front of him, what was the use of rubble? Thus, Dubai accepted the freedom technique without hesitation. The path of devil arts is to follow one's heart and self, to follow one's heart's desires, to be unrestrained. However, I is the only one. Desire is only a distraction. Unable to distinguish between I and desire, sinking into desire and losing one's true self, these people are only evil, but not demons. These words in the freedom technique dispelled Dubai's last bit of worry. So that's how it is. So those so-called demons all walked the wrong path, became slaves to desire, and lost one's true self. Lost one's nature, that's why they became demons. What a real demon seeks the most is one's true self. Suddenly enlightened, Dubai's face revealed a trace of a smile. The freedom technique is indeed a great opportunity for me. Alright, do by neglected one point. Following one's heart's desires, not losing one's true self. However, human nature was evil. When he was immersed in his desires, would he think, perhaps this evil is my true nature? Once such thoughts were born, then one could only sink into depravity, and become a great demon. After all, who could truly see through oneself? Who could know if one's thoughts came from one's heart, or if it was because of the influence of desire? So, devil arts were still devil arts. If one could truly see through one's heart, then one could do as one pleased, unrestrained. If one couldn't see through one's heart, and still wanted to do as one pleased, unrestrained, then one could only be a demon. Everyone who faced such a situation would first think, I definitely won't be like them, I definitely won't tread on their path. However, those who could truly do it could be counted with one's fingers. My heart is one. My will is one. Today, I do swear with my heart and my will as the foundation, to witness the supreme devil Tao. Respectfully kowtowing towards the Mahasvara technique, disciple Dubai is willing to inherit the Tao of the Mahasvara demon lord, following one's heart and one's will, eternally free. My Tao has a successor, my heart is comforted. A majestic and vast voice sounded from the jade scroll. Boom. After this voice sounded, the jade scroll as white as jade suddenly exploded into a pure white radiance, rushing into Dubai's mind. Following one's heart and one's will, eternally free. The vast voice echoed in his mind, pure and flawless white radiance blossomed in his mind, illuminating his entire soul and sea of consciousness. In the pure white radiance, a scroll of jade scroll slowly unfurled, and the information of the Mahasvara technique appeared on the jade scroll. The Tao of cultivation is the Tao of plunder. Cultivators plunder heaven and earth yuan qi, plunder heaven and earth treasures, and plunder all living things in the world to achieve themselves. Buddhist demons and demons are all like this. My Mahasvara technique is even better. All living things in the world, all living things in the world, there is nothing that cannot be plundered. Seeing this, Dubai also understood why this was a devil technique. According to this, nothing cannot be plundered. Then, what about other cultivators? Were they also targets of plunder? The Tao of cultivation is indeed the Tao of plunder. Plundering the creation of heaven and earth, all cultivators in the world are like this. Therefore, devil techniques are only plundering a little more. Under the persuasion of this theory, Dubai had completely fallen into the fire pit and stepped onto the devil Tao. Chapter 1008. Crown Prince Yu was born with a strange appearance. He was born with the ability to speak and intelligence which is rare in the world. When the Crown Prince was born, there was a strange phenomenon in the sky. It was like the sun rising from the east, illuminating the world. Dragons and phoenixes cried, and the wind and thunder surged. This is the sign of a saint descending into the world. 3 years had passed. Enli Yu's incarnation was finally 3 years old. He cheated and adjusted the baby's body, allowing His Majesty Emperor Yu to get rid of the embarrassment of wetting the bed. Li Yu then unsealed his incarnation's consciousness. Thus, the Crown Prince, who knew how to call for help if he needed to go to the toilet, was shocked, and the mystical halo around him became stronger. Since he was recognized as a saint descending into the world, Li Yu naturally did not hold back. In the late spring, the Crown Prince picked a wild rice from the outer imperial plantation in the outskirts of Luojing and planted it in the palace's flowerbed. At first, no one paid attention to it. In autumn, a bucket of rice was harvested from this rice. With this rice as the seed, 1,000 caddies of rice were produced in the coming year. Auspicious signs descended from the heavens, and the world was shocked. Everyone said that the Crown Prince was the reincarnation of the ancient Yen Emperor. Big Boss Li had created the hybrid rice in this world. Thus, merit descended from the heavens. Apart from merit, there was also the aura of human holy virtue. Merit, holy virtue, moral virtue, good fortune, and nether virtue. This world has the aura of the 5 virtues. In this young body, the aura of merit and holy virtue merged into the body and soul. Liu realized that the last barrier between him and this world had disappeared. Yes, Liu was definitely not tinkering with the hybrid rice to save the people and save them. After reincarnating, Liu realized that even though his incarnation had reincarnated, there was still a barrier between him and this world. That was, the soul of a transmigrator was still different from this world. In order to eliminate this barrier and complete his plan, Liu spent 2 years creating the hybrid rice. Only then did the aura of merit and holy virtue get rid of the last barrier and truly integrate into this world. I've been prepared to abandon this divine clone of mine since the beginning. Once I become too entangled with this world, taking it back might affect my main body. Then, I can only give up on this avatar. The 3-year-old boy shook his head with a gloomy expression. I was already prepared to throw it away from the start. This divine clone of mine is really unlucky. Since I'm already prepared to throw it away, I'll just play as I please. He jumped down from the railing and landed lightly and steadily on the ground. For the past 3 years, Liu's body was still too weak, and he was unable to cultivate his qi. He could only use the body tempering method to temper his qi and blood. Although his arms and legs looked small, in a real fight, this 3-year-old Liu could easily kill a cow with 1 punch. Unfortunately, other people didn't know that he had this ability. Ah! Your Highness, be careful! A group of palace maids screamed and rushed up, their faces pale with fright. If anything happens to the crown prince, none of us will want to live anymore. All right, it's my fault. Liu looked at the group of palace maids who were so shocked that their faces were pale and their bodies were trembling. She felt helpless. I can't continue living like this. Men, prepare the carriage. I want to leave the palace. Liu roared, his aura fierce. Unfortunately, no matter how fierce a 3-year-old child was, he could only speak in a childish voice. Regarding this, Big Boss Li felt gloomy again. Although if he wanted to grow up, he could directly become an adult overnight. However, if he did that, the divine clone that he had painstakingly assimilated into this world would immediately be rejected by the heavens and earth. When will these days come to an end? Liu sat in a steel carriage, escorted by a group of guards in bright armor and wielding spears and swords, and slowly drove out of the palace. As the emperor's only son, if it wasn't for the saint descending title, Liu would be dreaming if he wanted to leave the palace. Even if he went out now, he was surrounded by 1,000 palace guards and sat in a steel carriage. Even if he was shot by countless arrows, it wouldn't hurt Liu at all. But, I don't need all of you to protect me like this. If he continued to be locked up like this, he wouldn't be able to do anything. Hence, Liu had already chosen a place to leave the palace today. To Unlo House. Liu ordered from the carriage. Unlo House? Your Highness, that is the most remote place in the west of the city, where the poor and vagabonds live. Your Highness going there isn't appropriate, right? Wang Shuo, one of the palace guards, who was known as the Spear King of Hulu, quickly explained to Liu and advised Liu not to go to the west of the city. Wang Baowei, if this crown prince doesn't know the hardships of the world, how will I govern the world in the future? Liu did not hold back at all as he put on airs. Your Highness is wise. With this big hat being placed on them, no one could resist. Wang Baowei could only obediently lead the group to the west of the city. The mighty group passed through the streets and alleys, quickly arriving at the west of the city. After arriving at the west of the city, the people in front of them gradually became sparse. When the carriage arrived at Unlo House, there were almost no people and carriages on the road. On the shabby street, other than Liu's group, there were only a few children playing on the side of the road. The houses on both sides of the road were dilapidated and old, clearly not having been repaired in a long time. With one look, one could tell that this was a place where poor people lived. There is such a poor place under the feet of the Son of Heaven, how can it be compared to the world? Liu shook his head and sighed. Actually, his eyes weren't looking at the hardships of the world, but rather cultivating to become an immortal. Enlu House was very remote and there were almost no outsiders coming here. When Liu's mighty group of people walked into the reclining happiness lane, it immediately alarmed everyone in the lane. Countless heads poked out from the doors of the houses on both sides, curiously looking at the group. Is that the returning dragon temple? In the northernmost part of Enlu House, a shabby Taoist temple stood alone. This was the purpose of Liu's visit today. In this returning dragon temple, there were true cultivators from outside the central province, cultivators of the Jindan realm. Moreover, this place had a teleportation array from the central province to the eastern sea. Liu's avatar reincarnated, not to become the crown prince or emperor, but to cultivate, to comprehend the laws of heaven and earth, and thus to comprehend the disorder of chaos. Stop the carriage. When they were about to arrive at Enlu House, Liu ordered the carriage to stop. Wang Baowei, I want to get off. Yes. After arranging the guards, Wang Baowei had Liu open the door and get off the carriage. He warmly received the people, encouraged them to work hard and become rich, told them that His Majesty the Emperor would never forget them, and gave each family a gift. Then, Liu used the excuse that Taoists are also people under the Emperor's rule, to give Enlu House a warm welcome. Your Highness the Crown Prince, we are people outside the world, and have long jumped out of the world of mortals. Your Highness the Crown Prince's generous gift, we are ashamed to accept it. Holding the heavy silver, two Taoists gnawing on chicken legs smiled, thinking, tomorrow we can have a good drink again. The master still hasn't come out? You're sending me away with such trash? It seems that I have to show you my power. Liu glanced at the back hall of the Taoist temple, and then looked at the portrait hanging in the main hall of the Taoist temple, and sneered in his heart. Daquanzi, you dare to worship your own portrait as a Tao ancestor, then let's see if you can withstand my incense. Walking to the altar, Liu picked up a stick of incense, lit it, held it in his hand, and bowed to the portrait. The chi of merit and holy virtue suddenly rushed up. Crack! The portrait hanging high in the main hall was hit by the chi of merit and holy virtue, and suddenly burst into pieces. F***ck. An old Taoist screamed in shock and anger in the back hall. Chapter 1009. With the addition of merit, all evils would be easily avoided. With the appearance of holy virtue, evil spirits would be frightened. Daquanzi was neither evil nor a demon. He was born in Ingzhou Immortal Island, one of the 3 immortal islands of the Eastern Sea. He was an orthodox Taoist disciple, Elder Jin Dan of Ying's Huxian school. However, he could not accept the bow of a virtuous person. Although merit and holy virtue were not harmful to Daquanzi, accepting this bow would damage his luck and merit. This world had heavenly tribulations. The 3 calamities and 9 tribulations, each tribulation was a narrow escape. In the entire cultivation world, countless seniors and experts had fallen under the heavenly tribulations and died. Accepting the bow of a virtuous person would damage his luck and merit, making it more dangerous to go through the heavenly tribulations. What a loss! What a loss! Daquanzi was extremely depressed. Wasn't it just putting on the airs of an immortal cultivator? Wasn't it just being lazy to care about mortals? Wasn't it just being pretentious? Did you have to do this to me? Moreover, even if he was depressed, he could not do anything. He was respectful to you and offered you incense. This was a form of respect. If you couldn't accept it, that was your own problem. How could you blame him? There's no other way. I can only meet him. If his aptitude is not bad, bringing him into the immortal sect is also a merit. In any case, it can make up for the loss. Daoquan waved his hand and a speck of light flashed. His unkempt appearance instantly became transcendent, and he looked like a transcendent being. Immeasurable deity. Daoquan walked out of the back hall and bowed. Your Highness the Crown Prince has arrived. I did not go out to welcome you. Please forgive me. The slovenly old Taoist with white hair and a youthful complexion suddenly turned into this enlightened master. The other two Taoists in the Taoist temple were stunned. You don't have to be so courteous. Little Liu, who was 3 years old, nodded his head solemnly and cupped his hands towards Taoist Quanzi. Liu came here abruptly and disturbed Taoist priest's peaceful cultivation. It's nothing. Daoquanzi's face was full of smiles like a spring breeze. However, he cursed in his heart, not only did you disturb my cultivation, but you also damaged my karma. I hope your aptitude isn't too bad. Otherwise, I won't be able to make up for my losses. Retracting his right hand into his sleeve, Daoquan made a gesture without leaving a trace. Then, he activated his third eye and checked Liu's aptitude with aura viewing technique. F***CK. He must be blind. My eyes are about to go blind. Daoquan opened his heavenly eye. The bright yellow light of virtue and the golden light of virtue were like the sun in the sky. They were so bright that Daoquan's eyes hurt. What was even more terrifying was that within this 3-year-old child's body, there was a vast and mighty aura of qi and blood that was like the blazing sun. The brilliance of merit and virtue, the brilliance of qi and blood, was simply blinding. How can a 3-year-old child have such a vast amount of qi and blood? After almost being blinded by the brilliance, Daoquan hurriedly closed his heavenly eye. However, his heart was filled with shock. The vast amount of merit and virtue, the brilliance of qi and blood that was like the blazing sun, was simply too terrifying. No wonder I couldn't even take a stick of incense from him. Rumor has it that this crown prince is the reincarnation of the ancient Yin emperor. Things like born with the ability to speak and born with a strange appearance are all very mysterious. This crown prince has also created a rice seed that can produce 1,000 caddies per moo. Daoquan thought about those rumors and compared them to the blinding brilliance that he had just seen. He was even more shocked. Could this guy really be the reincarnation of some mighty figure? With such merit and such a vast amount of qi and blood, if he really is the reincarnation of a mighty figure, his temperament wouldn't be bad. If I can bring him into the sect, it will be a great merit. Daoquan was overjoyed. If he could bring Liu into the sect, not only would he make up for all his losses, he would also be able to earn back a huge amount of merit. However, I need to enlighten this crown prince and make him understand that the riches and honor of the mortal world are just fleeting clouds. Only by cultivating can one be free and unfettered in this world. I still need to use some tricks. Daoquan's eyes turned. He already had an idea in his mind. Your Highness, the Crown Prince is so kind that even outsiders like us can bask in your grace. I can't thank you enough. Daoquan smiled as he sat down on the futon in the main hall. He looked up at Liu. I don't have anything valuable on me. I only have one trick to make your Highness smile. He waved his hand. In an instant, the sunny sky suddenly turned into a vast night sky filled with stars. With a wave of his hand, the sky changed. When this divine ability was used, all the guards, including the 2 Taoist priests in the Taoist temple, were stunned. Immortal! Immortal! With a cry of surprise, all the guards fell to the ground and shouted, "The immortal has shown himself." Only the 3-year-old Liu stood in the hall with a calm face, as if he didn't care about this unforeseen event. In fact, he really didn't care. It's just an illusion. Although the power of my avatar has been reduced to the level of a mortal, my eyesight isn't bad. Liu looked at Daoquan with a calm face. He smiled and nodded. Taoist priest, you are indeed a Tao enlightened master. You are so resourceful. You don't even bat an eyelid when Mount Tai collapses in front of you. A 3-year-old child with such a calm temperament. If you weren't the reincarnation of a mighty person, I would have dug out my eyes. Seeing Li Yu's performance, Daquanzi was even more satisfied. However, if this little trick can't move your heart, then let's do something more ferocious. I don't have anything to entertain your highness. I can only borrow a pot of osmanthus wine from the Moon Palace. Please have a taste. With a wave of his sleeve, a light rushed out from his hand. Buzz, the void shook, and the bright moon hanging high in the sky seemed to be pulled over by this light. The bright moon drew closer and closer. In the end, the huge moon covered the entire sky. The majestic and gorgeous palace on the moon, the huge osmanthus tree with knotted branches, and the graceful fairy on the moon were all clearly visible to the eyes. Everyone could even smell the osmanthus fragrance coming from the Moon Palace. Moon Fairy, I have to entertain guests, but I don't have any good wine. Please lend me a pot of osmanthus wine from I. Daquanzi called in the direction of the Moon Palace. So it's Tao enlightened Master Taoist Quan. It's just a little wine, I hope you don't mind. Inside the Moon Palace, a beautiful fairy with a peerless demeanor carried a flask of wine as she stepped on the moon and walked over. This is the best osmanthus wine from the Moon Palace. Please have a taste. The fairy put the wine pot on the table and bowed to Daquanzi and Li Yu. Then, she turned and floated away. Thank you, fairy. Daquanzi cupped his hands and then waved his sleeve again. Instantly, the sky changed. The bright moon in the sky returned to the clear sky. The dreamlike scene left all the guards dumbstruck and absent-minded. Immortal! Immortal! This is a real immortal! Everyone cried out in excitement. One by one, they knelt down before Daquanzi respectfully. They were filled with admiration for this true immortal. Beautiful! Beautiful! Li Yu clapped his hands and laughed. Taoist priest, your magic trick is really beautiful. The magic trick performed by the troupe in the Moon Palace is much better. Magic trick? Daquanzi was stunned. My mirror flower water moon technique is a real Taoist magic, not a magic trick. You really think it's a magic trick? Chapter 10:10. You are a true immortal. While Daquanzi was feeling depressed, Li Yu suddenly smiled. They all say that one can live forever. I wonder if the method you used just now can make you live forever? So this is the crux of the problem. You are indeed the reincarnation of a powerful person. You are not easy to fool. Daquanzi suddenly understood. He stood up and laughed. This is a magic trick. This is a magic trick. If you can't live forever, isn't that a magic trick? After laughing, Daquanzi's face turned serious. He looked straight at Li Yu. I have the way to live forever. I wonder if your highness is willing to give up the riches of the mortal world and live a carefree life in the mountains? Since it is the way to live forever and one can become an immortal, wouldn't the riches of the mortal world be fleeting? Li Yu answered indifferently. No. Your highness, you must not. Hearing this, Wang Baowei broke out in cold sweat. Oh my God! The only son of the current emperor, the only crown prince, if he followed this Taoist to cultivate, what would happen to the world? More importantly, if His Highness cultivates, none of us will be able to survive under His Majesty's wrath. This is the fetters of the mortal world. The trivial matters of the mortal world are the most disturbing. If your highness can pass this hurdle, you can come to the Dragon Temple to look for me. I will accept your highness as my disciple. Even though Daquanzi wanted nothing more than to take Li Yu in as his disciple right away, if this matter was not handled properly, it would become an inner demon in his future cultivation. It would shake his Tao heart, and at that time, he would definitely suffer from qi deviation. I will be back in 3 days. Liu bowed and returned to the palace with a group of guards. What? You want to cultivate? When Liu returned to the palace, he went straight to the emperor and explained his idea. When the emperor heard this, he jumped up in shock. Who told the crown prince about cultivating? Men, arrest all the palace maids and guards by the crown prince's side and throw them into the prison for me to interrogate. The emperor roared furiously. Wait. Liu naturally did not want to implicate those innocent palace maids and guards, so he hurriedly stopped them. I have something important to discuss with His Majesty. You may leave. Waving his hand to dismiss the guards and eunuchs, Liu walked up to the emperor and extended his hand with a smile. A brilliant golden light shone from his palm. Seeing the golden light in Liu's hand, the emperor was so shocked that his eyes bulged. Your Majesty, since the day I was born, there have been many strange phenomena on my body. I'm sure your Majesty has also wondered where I came from. Is he really your son? What kind of nonsense is that? Your mother was pregnant for 10 months before giving birth to you. You are my flesh and blood. You are my son. What other background could you have? The emperor's expression changed. He stared at Liu and roared again. That's true. I am indeed your Majesty's flesh and blood. Liu smiled and nodded. Since I was born, haven't people always said that I am the reincarnation of the Holy Emperor? In fact, I am the reincarnation of the Holy Emperor. What? Although the emperor had already guessed it, he was still shocked when he heard Liu's words. I am Yu Huang de Tianzuan. I descended from the heavens and was reincarnated into the Zhong province imperial family. Originally, your Majesty was destined to have no children. The Zhong province imperial family would fall apart in 20 years and be replaced by others. Liu spoke with assurance, but the words that came out of his mouth scared the emperor half to death. Whether it was the birth of Yu Huang de Tianzuan, destined to have no children, or replace, the emperor was so scared that his face turned pale and sweat broke out on his forehead. However, the word original gave the emperor some hope. Now that Yu Huang de Tianzuan had descended, that originally should no longer exist, right? I descended to this world for another important matter. I naturally cannot inherit the Zhong province imperial family's throne. At this point, Liu chuckled. Your Majesty need not panic. My birth into the Zhong province imperial family is the imperial family's great merit and great fortune. The Zhong province imperial family will prosper for all eternity. Phew! That's good. That's good. The emperor let out a sigh of relief. Although he didn't know the background of Yu Huang de Tianzuan, he knew that this was a character on the same level as the Holy Emperor. With such a character making a promise, this was the golden mouth and jade words, the mandate of heaven. I have a human Tao holy virtue method. If your Majesty cultivates according to this method, you will purify the universe and work hard to govern. In the future, you will live a long life and become a character on par with the ancient Holy Emperor. With a point of his hand, a golden, holy virtue rushed out from his fingertip and landed in between the Emperor's eyebrows. A loud boom sounded in his mind. The Emperor felt his soul shake and countless images appeared in front of his eyes. The birth of the human race. The ancient human emperor led the human race to overcome all obstacles and led the human race to survive. 3 emperors ruled the world. 5 emperors abdicated. The holy emperor of the human race commanded the world, sealed the heavens and earth, established the position of God and man, and set the rules of heaven and man. Thus, the human race prospered. Then, the flood of human Tao swept through the world. The age of Dharma came, and tools Tao prospered. The human race used all kinds of tools to conquer the world and the stars. In the universe, there were no gods, no Buddhas, no immortals, and no demons. There were only mortals who swept through the world. This is human Tao. Seeing the images in his mind, The emperor was stunned for a long time before he recovered. Thank you, Sky Sovereign, for bestowing this method. Li Yan will work hard to govern and purify the universe. The flood of human Tao, the sacred flame of human Tao, will sweep through the world. Emperor Li Yan looked at this son with a complicated expression and sighed in his heart. This karma is over. This son. I'm afraid he will no longer be my son. The Tao of the human emperor is the Tao of saint virtue, the Tao of rule. Therefore, I divided the Tao of the human emperor into 3 realms: adequate food and clothing, well-off, and great harmony. Li Yu used the saint virtue of this world and the Swirenshi fire rod he saw in Pan Shi's world, combined with his own understanding, and fiddled with the Tao of the human emperor. Adequate food and clothing means that the tillers have their own fields, and the subjects under the rule will no longer have to worry about food and clothing. Zhongzhou already has rice seeds that can produce 1,000 caddies per mu. In the future, as long as we build water conservancy and choose any virtuous person, we will not have to worry about food and clothing for 100 years. Well-off is more difficult. At this time, His Majesty needs to pay attention to industry and commerce. As industry and commerce tax, it is enough for the country. There is no tax on agriculture, and the world is in good health. At this time, it can be called well-off. As for great harmony, the world will be great harmony, and the universe will be unified. There will be no distinction between the rich and the poor, and there will be no distinction between the rich and the poor. The Tao of Saint Virtue will announce to the world that the emperor and the common people are equally guilty. Then, the rule of Saint Virtue will benefit the world and unify the heavens. At that time, Your Majesty will be able to prove the creation, obtain eternity, and become the eternal and indestructible Emperor of Saint Virtue. Li Yu spoke with assurance, and then merit fell from the sky. The bright yellow aura of merit was like a pillar to the sky. Flowers fell from the sky, tens of thousands of auspicious clouds, and thousands of auspicious auras. What the hell? I was just fooling the Emperor, and I really came up with a Tao of Saint Virtue? This could be said to be planting flowers with the intention, but the unintentional willow will become een. Li Yu's great Tao of order and matter had not yet appeared, but he had already come up with a Tao of Saint Virtue for this world. Of course, the Tao of Saint Virtue originally existed. Li Yu's words were not the creation of Saint Virtue, but the perfection of Saint Virtue. Merit fell from the sky, and Li Yu's Tao of Saint Virtue could be considered to have truly become one of the Tao of Saint Virtue in this world. According to this cultivation method, to prove eternity, one would need to conquer the heavens and the world, and spread the Tao of Saint Virtue throughout the heavens. This was simply impossible to accomplish. However, at the very least, it would allow the Emperor to have an extra few thousand years of life. This was not a problem. This could also be considered to have ended the karma of reincarnation. Chapter 10-11. Father, your son will take his leave. After this karma was settled, Li Yu's clone requested the Tao of immortality. My son, the Emperor stretched out his hand, then put it down dejectedly. This son of his could not stay by his side forever. He has his path, and I also have mine. Emperor Li Yan took a deep breath and pressed his hand on the imperial jade seal on the desk. A mighty aura of humanity surged, and a dazzling golden dragon appeared above Li Yan's head. Son, no matter how extraordinary you are, you will always be at the end of the day. Sooner or later, your father will catch up to you. Conquer the heavens and achieve eternity. I will definitely become the Emperor of Divine Virtue. At this moment, Emperor Li Yan of Zhongzhou officially stepped onto the path of Divine Virtue. Draconic Qi filled his body and Divine Virtue blessed him. At this moment, Li Yan already had the status of destined Son of Heaven. With the true dragon's protection, no evil can invade. In front of this dragon Qi, An ordinary Taoist would even be suppressed by the spiritual power of the spirit and would not be able to cast any spells. "Mother, I've picked some fresh fruit. Have a taste." Li Yu came to the harem. Before he left, he gave this body's mother a gift. The fruit was an ordinary fruit, but Li Yu's original body had placed a time imprisonment imprint on it. As long as the imperial consort Hua ate this fruit, the imprint would be branded on the imperial consort Hua's body. In terms of time, Li Yu had already fixed the imperial consort Hua in place. From then on, the imperial consort Hua would forever be fixed at this point in time. As long as no one with a higher cultivation level than Li Yu did anything, even after billions of years, the imperial consort Hua's body and soul would remain at this point in time. She would never grow old and she would never die. Now that the karma is settled, it's time for me to do my own things. After watching the imperial consort Hua eat the fruit, Li Yu took his leave and left the palace. My life as the crown prince has come to an end. Unfortunately, I haven't even done that yet. Stepping out of the palace, Li Yu went straight to Huilong Temple. In fact, Daequanzi is not important. However, since this clone of mine wants to integrate into this world, it naturally has to have a foundation. On the path of cultivation, one must have a foundation. The avatar was different from the main body. It didn't matter if the main body could do whatever it wanted. However, this clone had to fuse with this world in order to attain creation and comprehend the laws of heaven and earth. Therefore, this kind of background had to be reasonable and reasonable. Taoist priest, Li Yu requests an audience. Arriving at Huilongwen, Li Yu knocked on the door. "It hasn't even been a day, and you've already severed your worldly ties?" Daequanzi opened the door and was surprised to see Li Yu. "Why do you need to cut it off? I am me. I am me in the secular world, and I am still me as a cultivator. Since it's all me, everything is my heart. Why do I need to cut it off?" Li Yu's path of cultivation had long been clear. At the end of cultivation, he was still himself. He definitely couldn't lose himself. No emotions, no desires, no thoughts, no consciousness. If he didn't even have himself, what was the point of cultivating? Therefore, these words were really Li Yu's true feelings. "You actually have such a temperament?" When these words came out, Daequanzi was dumbfounded. Alright, this was the reincarnation of a great expert. This kind of person naturally couldn't be treated as an ordinary person, even if he was only 3 years old. If an ordinary person wanted to cultivate, they had to sever their worldly ties in order to strengthen their Tao heart. However, Li Yu's Tao heart was firm to begin with. There was no need to sever it. "I came from East Sea Ying's Huxian school. My sect has Yu's legacy. In this Yutian, a world of cultivation, Ying's Huxian school is the world's top orthodox Taoism, one of the top." At this point, Li Yu came to the quiet room in the backyard. Daequanzi introduced the sect's origins to Li Yu. "Today, I wish to take you as my disciple and help you cultivate into the Tao. Are you willing?" After introducing the sect's origins, Daequanzi looked at Li Yu with a serious expression and spoke of his intention to take him in as his disciple. From Li Yu's perspective, a mere Taoist Jin Dan was still too far away from being his master. However, since this clone wanted to integrate into this world and cultivate step by step, it really couldn't be justified if he didn't have a master. "Since it's just a clone, I'll just let this old Taoist take advantage of me." Li Yu bowed and said, "Disciple Li Yu greets master." "Good, good, good." After Li Yu acknowledged him as his master, Daequanzi could clearly feel a huge amount of virtue being added to his body. His entire body seemed to be glowing. As expected of the reincarnation of a powerful expert, I helped him enter the Tao and actually received such a huge amount of virtue from him. Daequanzi extended his hand to help Li Yu up and said with a smile, "This disciple's origins are too frightening. Just by helping him enter the Tao, I's virtue is already dazzling enough to blind me. My Ying's Huxian school has countless Taoist arts that have been passed down. Among them, the strongest is Yu Yu's Samadhi Celestial Wind True Technique. Since you've become my disciple, I'll teach you the true technique of Samadhi Divine Wind, soul nourishing, soul strengthening, and body leaving. Dayaquanzi extended his hand and passed down the first 3 stages of the Samadhi Celestial Wind True Technique to Li Yu. This thing. I even have you use True Inheritance. Seeing the first 3 stages of the Samadhi Celestial Wind True Technique that Dayaquanzi passed down, Li Yu laughed inwardly. Not only the Samadhi Celestial Wind True Technique, but even the Shinshao Heavenly Thunder True Technique and the Shangqing Yu Yu's Yin Yang Great True Qi, I know all of them. In fact, the reason why Li Yu looked for Dayaquanzi was so that he could obtain the Yu Yu's true inheritance. My Tao is matter and order. The Yu Yu's true inheritance's Tao of Yin Yang's transformation can be extended to the Tao of order. As for the Tao of matter, there's still a 5-colored peacock in another great world. When the time comes, I can casually find an excuse to take out the Tao of 5 elements and deduce the Tao of matter. Li Yu's cultivation was merely following the methods of this world and recultivating the order and matter great Tao once more. His path was already clear, so naturally, it was impossible for him to change it. When my Tao of matter and order is completed, any great Tao in this world will be within the Tao of matter and order. After all, great Tao was also order. After Li Yu accepted Dayaquanzi's teachings, he could use this clone to openly cultivate this world's cultivation technique. Soul nurturing is actually tempering the body and soul, using one's own qi and blood to nourish the soul. Li Yu's qi and blood were so vigorous that he didn't need to temper his body at all. With a turn of his mind, his qi and blood surged, and the vast power of qi and blood nourished the soul continuously. In just a moment, half of his qi and blood were consumed and converted into the power of the soul. The strength of the soul had already exceeded the limits of the soul-nurturing realm. The next step is to nurture the qi and strengthen the soul. This step was to absorb the heaven and earth yuan qi, strengthen the body, nurture the qi and blood, and then use the qi and blood to nourish the soul. The qi and blood in his body condensed into a stream of inner qi and instantly connected all the meridians in his body. All the pores on his body opened, and with every breath, waves of heaven and earth yuan qi surged into his body like waves. His soul was constantly strengthening. Constantly strengthening. Boom! With a loud explosion, Li Yu's soul broke out of his body and floated in the quiet room. Dayaquanzi was dumbfounded. Even if you're the reincarnation of a mighty figure, you broke through 3 realms in the blink of an eye and reached the out-of-body realm. Isn't this too unbelievable? No matter how talented you are, you can't reach the out-of-body realm without more than 10 years of hard work. There's no need to explain how awesome a cheat is. Chapter 10-12. Boom! The first time the soul left the body, the connection between the divine soul and the heaven and earth would awaken some innate divine powers. When Li Yu's soul left the body, he felt a violent roar in the heaven and earth. Heaven and man connection, heaven and man as one. At this moment, the cultivator received a gift from the heaven and earth, giving birth to their own innate divine powers. Of course, the birth of these innate divine powers was related to the cultivation technique, each person's comprehension, and even the origin of their bloodline. I can communicate with the heaven and earth laws at this time? Li Yu suddenly realized that he could communicate with the heaven and earth laws when the divine soul left the body for the first time. Although it's only the surface level of the heaven and earth laws, it's still far from the real heaven and earth laws. But I can't let go of this opportunity. The main body sitting cross-legged in the void opened its eyes at this moment. Following the connection between the divine soul and the heaven and earth, Liu opened his mind and used this short moment to quickly comprehend the heaven and earth laws. This realization scared Daquanzi out of his wits. When Liu's avatar's soul left the body and the heaven and man connection, the entire room exploded with strange phenomena. The 5 elements changed, light and darkness alternated, wind and thunder surged, and time and space flowed. Merit, virtue, 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 virtue. The connate 5 virtues manifested the image of a phoenix in the room. The phoenix spread its wings and the 5 virtues, Taichu, Taisher, Taishang, Taichi, and Taishu. The connate 5 virtues manifested the image of a true dragon in the room. The golden dragon soared into the sky, and the 5 virtues manifested. The dragon and phoenix spiraled, head to tail, and evolved the cycle of karma and the alternation of life and death. Oh my God! This disciple of mine, where did he come from? If this goes on, how am I going to teach him? Daquanzi was completely dumbfounded. The disciple he took in was too powerful. As a master, he was in a difficult position. Buzz. At this moment, the void trembled slightly, and a graceful, elegant, and beautiful woman appeared in the quiet room. Soul leaving the body, heaven and man connection? I was wondering who was fighting with me for the heaven and earth spiritual chi and middle ground? So that's how it is. The beautiful woman glanced at Liu, who was in the midst of heaven-man connection, and then turned to look at Daquanzi. Xiao Daozi, who is this little fellow? Where did he come from? Lord Xinxiao, can you not call me Xiao Daozi? Daquanzi looked at the beautiful woman and pulled back his neck with a bitter expression. This beautiful woman was naturally the artifact spirit of the Xinxiao Palace, a half-step golden immortal who called herself Yu Xinxiao. Okay, Xiao Quan, what's the background of this little guy? Yu Xinxiao followed his advice and immediately changed Xiao Daozi to Xiao Quanzi. You just call me Xiao Daozi. Daquanzi always felt that the name Xiao Quan seemed to carry some kind of heinous curse. If he dared to call himself Xiao Quan, he was afraid that the heavenly tribulation would come and kill him without leaving a trace. You're so nosy. Yu Xinxiao slapped Daquanzi to the ground. Like a bully, she stepped on Daquanzi. Tell me, what's the background of this little fellow? He's my disciple. Daquanzi hurriedly answered. Bullshit. Yu Xinxiao stomped down, causing Daquanzi to cry out in pain. He's really my disciple. Lord Xinxiao, Ancestral Master Xinxiao, spare me! Daquanzi held his head and begged for mercy. Yu Xinxiao was a Dharma treasure refined by Yu Yu Daoren. Ying's Huxian school also had Yu Yu's legacy. In front of such a living ancestor, Daquanzi was completely helpless. He's really your disciple? That's impossible, right? Yu Xinxiao blinked her eyes, her face full of disbelief. Look, his spirit has left his body, he's sensing the heavens and earth, and he's actually caused such a phenomenon. He's more than 100 times stronger than you. You want to be his master? He's more likely to be your master. But he's really my disciple. Daquanzi knew that this disciple of his was the reincarnation of a mighty figure. His spirit had left his body, and he was sensing the heavens. The foundation of his previous life was unleashed at this moment. It was indeed terrifying. From now on, he's no longer your disciple. Kicking Daquanzi away, Yu Xinxiao laughed loudly. Not bad. Not bad. He's just right to be my disciple. But he's not a pretty boy. He doesn't meet Lord Xinxiao's standards for choosing a disciple. Before Daquanzi could finish his words, he was sent flying by Yu Xinxiao's kick. What pretty boy! You bastard, how dare you spout nonsense! Yu Xinxiao's face turned red. She looked up at the 3-year-old Liu, who was sitting cross-legged on the ground. She muttered to herself, he's already so handsome now. When he grows up, he'll naturally be a pretty boy. No. There's no such thing as a pretty boy. I'm choosing a disciple, not a spouse. This little guy has extraordinary potential. When I reincarnate in the future, I'll have to rely on him to support me. He's not suitable to be my disciple. Why don't I let him become my master's disciple? Let's do that. Clenching her fists, Yu Shenxiao made up her mind. Dong, it was as if a huge bell had rung in the void. The strange phenomenon in the sky dissipated instantly, leaving only Li Yu's soul floating in the air. His soul was as clear as glass, as if it was carved out of a flawless diamond. This is still the soul of an out-of-body realm cultivator? Daquanzi was stunned. What did he comprehend? His soul's essence is actually so pure? Yu Shenxiao was also flabbergasted. Sigh. It's still a little lacking in the end. Li Yu shook his head and sighed. His soul turned into light and entered his body instantly. It's still lacking in the end? Don't tell me you're still planning to cultivate your soul into a primordial spirit at the out-of-body realm? Daquanzi cursed in his heart. Li Yu's lamentation was completely different from what Daquanzi thought. The first time my soul left my body and connected with heaven, it's a pity that these laws of heaven and earth are all superficial laws. They can only bestow me with minor abilities. Naturally, I can't comprehend any profound Tao. However, this path is the right one. Comprehending the out-of-body realm was already beneficial. The more profound his cultivation, the more he would be able to comprehend the heaven and earth and ultimately obtain the benefits he wanted. Little fellow, your aptitude is not bad. At this moment Yu Shenxiao spoke. I'm the disciple of Master Yu Yu. Old Master Yu Yu was the one who created this world. Little fellow, I'll accept you as my disciple on behalf of Master Yu Yu. From today onwards, you're Yu Yu's true disciple. Upon hearing Yu Shenxiao's words, Li Yu was stunned. What's going on? Li Yu naturally knew about Yu Shenxiao and Yu Daoren. However, wasn't the sudden change from Daquanzi's disciple to Yu Daoren's disciple a little too big? Li Yu turned to look at Daquanzi, only to see that Daquanzi had his head lowered and was wholeheartedly counting ants on the ground. It was as if he didn't hear anything at all. Don't bother about him. I'm going to accept a disciple on behalf of Master Yu Yu. What can he say? Yu Shenxiao reached out and grabbed Li Yu. Let's go. I'll bring you to Master Yu Yu. Yu Shenxiao's figure flashed, and he instantly vanished. What's going on? Daquanzi's face was full of depression. I just accepted a disciple, and in the blink of an eye, I became a grandmaster. Do you have to be so conned? Chapter 10-13. Li Yu stepped into the immortal sect, while Du Bai stepped into the devil sect. Middle State Beimang Mountain. This was the place where the Yin Qi of the entire Middle State gathered, and it was also an excellent burial ground. Over the years, Beimang Mountain had buried countless people. There were ghosts in this world. In this place where the Yin Qi gathered, the possibility of ghosts being born was even greater. As night fell, the entire Beimang Mountain became eerie. The ground was filled with flickering jade phosphorus ghost fire. The Yin Qi whistled, and 100 ghosts walked in the night. In such a bright world, there are actually ghosts running amok. A youth wearing a white robe without any other color on his body stepped onto Beimang Mountain with a cold expression. Only the heart and only the self, freedom is eternal. As the incantation sounded, the youth's hand formed a seal, like a lotus flower blooming. A pure white light rose up and swept across the heaven and earth. In the youth's mind, as the sky was filled with white light, the 9 jade slips formed a scroll that slowly unfolded, and a vast and boundless energy surged out. Gee, chirp chirp, ao, all kinds of ghostly cries and howls sounded. Under this white light, all the ghosts on Beimang Mountain were swept away. For a moment, the sky opened and the clouds faded, and the jade universe became clear. The eerie Beimang Mountain was suddenly washed away by this white light, and turned into a peaceful green mountain and clear water. Thousands of ghosts were captured by the white light, and were absorbed into the jade slip. They were constantly decomposing and melting. Little bits of pure divine soul energy, like colorless and transparent water droplets, were constantly dripping into Du-Bai's divine soul. The divine soul energy was constantly strengthening and improving. Immortal, please spare our lives. Although we are ghosts, we have never done any evil. Exalted Immortal, please be magnanimous and let us live. Some ghosts pleaded loudly in the white light. These were all ghosts that had not done any evil, and their consciousness were still clear. You are all mistaken about one thing. Du-Bai's cold face revealed a sneer. I am not an immortal. I am a devil. The mighty white light turned. Whether the ghosts had done evil or not, whether they had retained their consciousness, they were all decomposed and annihilated by Du-Bai, and refined into pure divine soul energy. What is good? What is evil? Those who benefit me are good, and those who harm me are evil. Good and evil are all determined by humans. Du-Bai smiled and shook his head. Neither good nor evil, only one's heart and one's self. The wolf wants to eat the sheep, and the sheep wants to eat the grass. Who is kind? Who is evil? The world is selfless and emotionless. Therefore, there is no good or evil in the world. Only idealism. The white light disintegrated all the ghosts, and drops of pure soul energy quickly merged with Du-Bai's soul, causing Du-Bai's soul to grow stronger. Nourish the soul, strengthen the soul. My original soul cultivation was already at the peak of the soul nurturing realm. Now that I've absorbed the soul energy of these spirits, I've managed to reach leaving aperture realm. Feeling the vast and pure spirit in his sea of consciousness, Du-Bai sighed in his heart. I spent 10 years to cultivate my spirit to the soul nurturing stage. Now, in just 3 short years, I've already reached leaving aperture realm. Ever since he left the mountain, Du-Bai had killed a few martial arts heroes, snatched their inner strength, and reopened all the meridians in his body. He had already reached large success in body tempering and chi nurturing. Now that he had swallowed the ghosts of Mt. Baimang, his soul energy had also reached leaving aperture realm. Soul leaving aperture, comprehending heaven and earth. After finding a safe place, Du-Bai released his soul and began his first leaving aperture realm. Under the connection between heaven and man, the laws of heaven and earth carved talismans in his soul, giving birth to many special abilities. Dark Een Ghost Slaying Technique. Grand Moon Crescent Blade. Sinister Wind Escape. Sky Demon Incantation. 9 Nether Chill. After a while, the connection between heaven and man was completed, and Du-Bai obtained 5 special abilities. As expected of the Devil Lord's true legacy, I can obtain 5 special abilities at leaving aperture realm. Du-Bai stood up happily after his soul returned to his body. These 5 innate divine abilities were only at the level of art. He had to keep cultivating them and stacking them on top of each other to turn them into true great divine abilities. There are some mystical places in Zhongzhou. Other than Mt. Baimang, there is only Mt. Tongxian in Chuzhou City. I hope that Mt. Tongxian can bring me some benefit. Activating the Een Wind Escape, Du-Bai's figure was like a strand of the night wind, bringing along a ghastly chill as he whistled through the air. Half a month later, Du-Bai arrived at Chuzhou City. The out-of-aperture realm still doesn't have dermic energy. Only when I reach the Qi channeling realm can I channel spirit Qi into my body and infuse it with my soul to generate dermic energy. Du-Bai could only fly a few dozen miles with the sinister wind escape before he had to meditate to recover his essence Qi. If he could reach the Qi channeling realm, he would be able to fly 1,000 miles in one go. Innkeeper, where is Mt. Tongxian? Du-Bai found a tavern in Chuzhou City and ordered a table of dishes. He then asked the innkeeper for directions to Mt. Tongxian. Are you going to Mt. Tongxian? There was a young Taoist who was asking about Mt Tong Xian just now. The innkeeper smiled and pointed out the window. Sir, look. The tallest mountain in the distance is Mt Tong Xian. However, there are many beasts on Mt Tong Xian. Hunters and woodcutters often go missing in Mt Tong Xian, so no one dares to go there anymore. If you want to go there, please be careful. Thank you. Dubai placed a silver ingot on the table and dismissed the innkeeper. People often go missing? It seems that Mt Tong Xian is quite mystical. After finishing his meal, Dubai walked out of the tavern and headed toward Mt Tong Xian. Dubai followed the rugged mountain path until he reached a place where there was no one. Then he activated the wind escape and flew away. A moment later, Dubai saw a giant monument on the mountain path. The words Mt Tong Xian were engraved on it. This is Mt Tong Xian. I wonder if I can find anything. Pinching his fingers together, Dubai wiped his eyes, and a white light burst out from his pitch-black pupils. Opening the demonic eye, Dubai used the aura observation technique to observe Mt Tong Xian. Over there, Inchi, fiendish chi, and demonic chi? Dubai found something strange in a valley on the western foot of Mt Tong Xian. Demonic chi and fiendish chi. Could it be a monster that cultivates the ghost Tao? This is interesting. Dubai sat cross-legged on the ground and meditated. Only after he had recovered to his peak state did he set off for the valley. Walking into the valley, he saw a huge courtyard built on the edge of a small lake. In Dubai's eyes, the entire courtyard was filled with demonic chi and yin chi. It was obviously a haunted house. Young master, it's late and you can't sleep at night. This servant has come to serve young master. In the courtyard, there were 3 rooms that were still lit. But, at the door of each room, there was a young girl wearing a light veil gently knocking on the door. Ghosts? But they have physical bodies? In Dubai's eyes, these girls all exuded a trace of yin chi, but their bodies were very lively and looked no different from ordinary people. Mere ghosts dare to do this? An angry roar sounded from one of the rooms. Then, with a crack, a bolt of lightning struck. The female ghost's soul exploded and her body instantly turned into a rotten corpse. Humph! A young man in Taoist robes snorted angrily and rushed out of the room. Then Dubai saw himself. Chapter 10:14. My body has been taken over by someone else? Dubai frowned slightly. At that time, I was suffering from chi deviation and my soul was about to be destroyed, but I was saved by the great Freedom Demon Master. The Demon Master remade my body. My original body is still there. After thinking for a while, Dubai understood the reason. A cultivator must have met with a calamity and his body was destroyed. He happened to find the body left behind by Dubai and took the opportunity to be reborn. Haha! No matter what, this is my body. A cold smile appeared on Dubai's face. With a tap of his foot, his figure instantly landed in the courtyard and landed in front of the original Dubai. This Dubai was naturally Shi Xian. Shi Xian had just killed a ghost when he suddenly saw a figure land in front of him. He was shocked and quickly grabbed a talisman, ready for battle. A person? Not a ghost? Just as he was about to activate the talisman, Shi Xian realized that the person in front of him had an extremely pure aura without any impurities. It was completely different from the evil ghost. He quickly stopped. Fellow Taoist, are you also here to subdue demons and eliminate devils? Shi Xian asked Dubai. Although he did not immediately attack, Shi Xian did not let down his guard. Subdue demons and eliminate devils? Dubai stared at Shi Xian and smiled. Subduing a demon is acceptable, but there's no need to exterminate a demon. There were demons, ghosts, and devils here. However, this devil was himself. Fellow Taoist, your cultivation is indeed profound. Shi Xian praised. I also feel that there is some demonic qi here, but I can't be sure. According to what fellow Taoists said, this place must be haunted by demons. With that, Shi Xian bowed to Du Bai. Shi Xian, may I know your name? Shi Xian? Isn't it Du Bai? Du Bai stared at Shi Xian with a sneer on his face. Shi Xian's heart tightened. Did this person know Du Bai? Right, there weren't many cultivators in the Central Plains. It was normal for this person to know Du Bai. However, why didn't I find this person in Du Bai's remaining memories? Thinking of Du Bai's qi deviation and the destruction of his divine soul, it made sense that his memories were incomplete. I suffered from qi deviation some time ago, and my soul was severely damaged. After he woke up, he lamented the impermanence of life and death. He decided to sever his past and reincarnate as Shi Xian. Shi Xian immediately came up with an excuse. It's just that my divine soul was damaged and my memory is incomplete, so I can't recognize you, fellow Taoist. Ha. How interesting. Du Bai laughed out loud. He pointed at Shi Xian and shook his head. You can't recognize others, but you can definitely recognize me. Because I'm Du Bai. Du Bai. Shi Xian's whole body shook. He was dumbfounded. How is this possible? This person must be tricking me. He probably found out that I'm different from the original Du Bai, and he didn't believe my divine soul was damaged excuse, so he tricked me. Shi Xian calmed down and smiled. Fellow Taoist, you must be joking. You don't believe me? You think I'm tricking you? Du Bai laughed. 13 years ago, when I was 8 years old, I fled to Yangzhou. Du Bai's cold voice kept ringing. From beginning to end, he recounted everything that had happened to him. Shi Xian's face became paler and paler as he listened. His forehead was already sweating. What the hell is going on? I'm a transmigrator who transmigrated here and took over the body of another, but the original owner of this body actually came looking for me? Is there a more tragic transmigrator than I am? Now, do you understand? Du Bai smiled and looked at Shi Xian. This body is mine. It's mine, even if I don't want it anymore. There's no reason for me to let others trample on it. What do you think? As he said this, Du Bai raised his hand. A cold light like a crescent moon flashed at his fingertip. This was the minor ability, Grand Een Crescent Moonblade, that Du Bai had obtained after advancing to the astral projection realm. The cold light was like a crescent moon. It revolved endlessly around Du Bai's fingertip. Its sharp and cold aura made one's heart tremble. Fellow Taoist Du Bai, listen to my explanation. Listen to my explanation. Shi Xian felt guilty and depressed. I'm indeed in the wrong for taking over your body. But I didn't want to. What can I do? After transmigrating and taking over the body of another, the original owner of this body actually came looking for me. I've never heard of such a situation before. Bitch, how dare you poison me? Ah, it's poisonous. Help, help. At this moment, a cry for help came from the courtyard. Brother Mingda, Hero Yen. Hearing this cry for help, Shi Xian's heart skipped a beat. Ding Mingda, the scholar, and Yen Zhujian, the swordsman, both of them came here together with Shi Xian. Shi Xian had encountered the female ghost, so the two of them should not be an exception. But he was facing a huge problem now, and he could not spare a hand. That scholar? And that swordsman? Are you guys together? Du Bai laughed. You're blinded by lust. Death is not to be regretted. You'd better take care of yourself first. He waved his hand, and a cold crescent moon blade appeared. Shio! It was as if the dark night sky was being torn apart by this blade. The crescent moon blade, which was spinning non-stop, carried a cold and sharp light, and revealed a deathly aura as it slashed through the air. Shi Xian's heart tightened and he sighed again. Do I have to fight this battle after all? The talisman in his hand lit up, and streaks of electricity surrounded the talisman. Just as he was about to make his move, Shi Xian suddenly realized that the cold crescent moon blade circled in front of him, and suddenly slashed into the room where the cry for help came from. Boom! The door of the room exploded, and the cold, sharp blade swept through. Puff! The sound of a sharp blade piercing into a body could be heard. The female ghost, who was sitting on Ding Mingda's body, was instantly beheaded. In the midst of the black fog, the beautiful woman turned into a rotten corpse. Ah! Ding Mingda screamed. He vomited as he crawled and rolled on the ground, crying for his parent. The scholar's clothes were disheveled, and when he rolled on the ground, his swollen and purple lower body was clearly visible. Poisonous? Did the scholar just say it was poisonous? Seeing the purple eggplant, Shi Xian was dumbfounded, and the corner of his mouth twitched violently. Yes. Although these female ghosts had a physical body, they were actually corpses. Naturally, corpses had corpse poison. Could it be that this was the legendary "there's poison in that thing"? At this time, Du Bai waved his hand again with a straight face. The crescent moon blade whizzed out from the scholar's room, and slashed into the swordsman's room. The swordsman was also poisoned. Unlike the scholar, the swordsman did not have any deep contact with the female ghost. He was only poisoned after being scratched by the female ghost. The crescent moon blade swept past, and the female ghost in front of the swordsman was killed on the spot. Thank you, fellow Taoist Du Bai. At this critical moment, Du Bai did not attack Shi Xian, and this made Shi Xian very grateful. He had taken over someone else's body. This matter, no matter how he looked at it, he was in the wrong. Fortunately, Du Bai had a noble character and selfless dedication. We'll settle our accounts later. Du Bai glanced at Shi Xian with a straight face, and then raised his head to look at the depths of the courtyard. Let's deal with the enemy in front of us first. Enemy? Shi Xian was startled. Woo! The chilly wind howled and a fierce gale blew, filling the sky with a murderous aura. In this gale of chilly wind, countless ghosts roared and rushed out. 100 ghosts marched in the night, and their murderous aura filled the sky. Chapter 10-15. Dark winds howled and dark clouds rolled. In an instant, the entire courtyard became pitch black. One couldn't even see their own fingers. Kakik, only ghostly howls could be heard in the surroundings. There was an endless horde of ghostly creatures. There were thousands and tens of thousands of them. Fellow Taoist Du Bai, I have some exorcism talismans. Why don't we retreat into the room and defend? Shi Xian felt his scalp go numb at the sight of this scene. Although these ghostly creatures weren't strong, there were too many of them. Tens of thousands of ghostly creatures wailed and howled at the same time. It was almost similar to the wail of the banshee. Normal people would faint if their souls were shaken by this force. Cultivators would also feel their souls being shaken, making it difficult for them to cast spells. These ghostly creatures aren't even worth mentioning. The real danger isn't them. Du Bai replied with a cold expression. He stretched out his hand and formed a hand seal. Only heart and only self, freedom and eternity. A mighty white light soared into the sky and swept out like a raging tide. Pure white, the ultimate white, a white that couldn't contain any impurities. As if purifying heaven and earth, this pure white light swept out and cleansed the pitch-black world. The dark winds dissipated, the dark clouds dissipated, and the tens of thousands of ghostly creatures also disappeared without a trace in this white light. The bright moon hung in the sky, shining brightly. This eerie and terrifying haunted house seemed to have been completely purified. It became pure and natural, without the slightest trace of Yin energy. Fellow Taoist, you're so powerful. When Shi Xian saw Du Bai display his invincible might, he exclaimed endlessly in his heart. Who said that transmigrators were the main characters? This native was supposed to be a background character. He was supposed to be the main character, right? The great enemy is about to arrive. Du Bai turned to look at Shi Xian and said coldly, If you don't want to die here, then show me your true abilities. Great enemy, Shi Xian's heart tightened. He recalled the demonic aura that Du Bai mentioned earlier. It was obvious that there was a great demon behind these ghostly creatures. But what true abilities do I have? Shi Xian forced a smile, and fished out a few magic charms from his bosom. These talismans, well, they were all Du Bai's. It was given to him by Du Bai's master. Now, these talismans naturally fell into Shi Xian's hands. Humph! Seeing Shi Xian take out the talisman that should have belonged to him, Du Bai snorted, his eyes showing a bit of anger. However, in the face of such a powerful enemy, if he were to fight with Shi Xian first, he would exhaust his primordial qi and would not be able to deal with this great demon. Although Du Bai was angry, he could only let it go. A woo, an earth-shattering tiger roar resounded. The wind howled and the clouds surged. A demonic wind that was as black as ink rushed out from the depths of the valley. On top of this demonic wind, a two-headed giant tiger with two heads stepped on the demonic wind and roared. The baleful Yin Qi, the baleful blood Qi, and the monstrous demonic Qi formed this extremely chaotic, impure, and incomparably enormous evil Qi. Who killed my vampires? The two-headed giant tiger rode the demonic wind and rushed to the sky above the courtyard. On its two huge heads, 4 bell-sized eyes burst out with blood-red evil Qi, fiercely glaring at Du Bai and Shi Xian. Ghost servants? Helping the tiger do evil. No wonder there are some differences between them and ordinary ghosts. At this time, Shi Xian also understood the origin of these ghosts. The tiger demon had a talent that could extract the souls of the people it killed, and turn them into ghosts. The thousands of ghosts in this courtyard were all the tiger demon's ghosts. It was obvious that this tiger demon had eaten countless people, and was covered in blood. Demon, since you know how to cultivate, don't you know that the heavens have the virtue of cherishing life? You will be punished by the heavens for killing like this. Shi Xian pointed at the tiger demon and roared righteously. What virtue of cherishing life? I've read human books. Isn't it natural for tigers to eat humans? The two-headed tiger demon laughed wildly at the sky. Demon, if you do this, what nonsense are you talking about? Let's just do it. Shi Xian still wanted to indulge in the righteous path, but he didn't expect Du Bai to directly interrupt him. Crescent moon blade. He waved his hand and chopped down. The cold and sharp crescent moon whizzed through the air and slashed fiercely at the tiger demon. You still dare to attack me? Watch out for my Dharma treasure. The tiger demon roared loudly. A black light rushed to the sky and turned into a black banner that was about 10 feet tall. On the pitch-black banner, the heads of ferocious evil spirits appeared one after another, emitting waves of mournful ghost howls that shook one's soul. 2 long chains of skulls hung from the sides of the black banner, swaying in the wind like jade. When the black banner appeared, a pitch-black light screen appeared in front of the tiger demon. Boom! The crescent moon blade landed heavily on the black light screen and exploded with a violent boom. However, the light screen didn't budge, but the crescent moon blade was shattered. Damn it! A high-grade magic weapon. This is a high-grade magic weapon that's about to complete the Earth termination restriction. Seeing the crescent moon blade shatter, Du Bai's cold face revealed a hint of anger, but his heart was filled with shock. A high-grade magic weapon that's about to complete the Earth termination restriction. Only a cultivator in the Qi channeling stage could refine such a magic weapon. Moreover, one would have to spend countless years to refine such a magic weapon. This tiger demon was clearly only in the out-of-aperture stage, so how could it have such a magic weapon? Whoa! After blocking Du Bai's crescent moon blade, the tiger demon roared and spat out countless wind blades from its 2 large mouths. Swish, 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 the wind blades filled the sky and shredded everything in front of it. Houses were shattered, flowers and trees were pulverized, and even a huge trench was carved into the ground. an out-of-aperture stage innate ability. Seeing this storm, Du Bai's heart tightened. Although Du Bai had also reached the out-of-aperture stage, he didn't have any defensive innate abilities, so he naturally didn't dare to take it head-on. Thick earth protection, as solid as rock. At this moment, Shi Xian threw out a talisman. A yellow light suddenly shot up and formed a solid stone wall in front of the two of them. Boom! The storm and the stone wall collided, and with a loud explosion, both of them were annihilated. Humph! Du Bai looked at this talisman and snorted coldly. This talisman was naturally Du Bai's. With a magic weapon protecting him, and such a powerful innate ability, it looks like I can only use the 5 Thunder Talisman to deal with him. Shi Xian reached out and took out another talisman. This was something that the old Taoist priest had left for Du Bai. There's no need. Du Bai waved his hand to stop Shi Xian. He looked up at the tiger demon, and a white glow appeared in his eyes. I'll show you what I'm made of. Wang. Powerful syllables rang out, and each syllable caused heaven and earth to tremble. A pure, unique, and eternal aura reverberated between heaven and earth. This was the heavenly demon mantra, also known as the mantra of freedom. This was one of the innate abilities that Du Bai had obtained when he cultivated the mantra of freedom. The mantra of freedom, the voice of the heavenly demon, was powerful enough to shake heaven and earth. A powerful force surged out along with the sound wave. Pfff. The tiger demon's body stiffened, and it spat out a mouthful of blood before falling to the ground. Now Du Bai turned to Shi Xian. Let's talk about the problem of the body. Chapter 10:16. Oh well, Shi Xian smiled bitterly when he heard that. Of course I can't let you abuse my body. So I have to take it back. Du Bai's eyes glowed with white light again. He made a hand seal and the mantra of freedom, voice of the heavenly demon, rang out again. This time, the target of the attack was Shi Xian. Buzz. Ho. Ho. The mighty syllables soared into the sky, and a huge force bombarded Shi Xian. Damn it! Shi Xian's cultivation had not reached the out-of-aperture stage, so he did not even have time to activate his talisman to defend himself against the mighty voice of the heavenly demon. The voice of the heavenly demon hit him squarely. Even the tiger demon, who was in the out-of-aperture stage and was protected by a high-grade magic weapon, was killed by this attack. Shi Xian's fate. Shi Xian was safe and sound. When the voice of the heavenly demon blasted into Shi Xian's soul, 2 things were activated in Shi Xian's mind at the same time. The first was the Pearl of Mountains and Rivers. The Pearl of Mountains and Rivers, an acquired treasure, had brought Shi Xian's soul from Earth to the Yutian. It glowed brightly and protected Shi Xian's soul. At the same time, the voice of the heavenly demon also rang out in Shi Xian's mind. It was a gift from Li Yu to Shi Xian. It was the mantra of heavenly demon devouring soul. At this moment, when the voice of the heavenly demon blasted toward Shi Xian, another voice of the heavenly demon also rang out. The 2 voices of the heavenly demon blasted out at the same time, and then they seemed to indicate their identities. The mantra of freedom did not attack Shi Xian. You also have. Hearing the mantra of the heavenly demon in Shi Xian's mind, Du Bai was shocked. Could this Shi Xian be related to the great freedom demon master? The successor chosen by the Devil Lord? Could it be that I'm not the only one? At this moment, countless thoughts flashed through Du Bai's mind, but he had no clue at all. You too. Shi Xian was also stunned. Could it be that this Du Bai was also related to the Yu Daoran? Du Bai's sound wave attack just now was very similar to the demonic soul-devouring mantra passed down by the Yu Daoran. It was obviously the same kind of power. I took over Du Bai's body, and Du Bai didn't die. Was he saved by the Yu Daoran? At this moment, both of them had misunderstood. His Majesty Emperor, you said. Young man, you are thinking too much. It was just a prank. I'll give you two choices. Du Bai calmed down and looked coldly at Shi Xian. The path of demonic cultivation was to follow one's heart. Even if he was related to the great freedom demon master, he could only do what he wanted. Please enlighten me, brother. Shi Xian felt that he was in the wrong, so he didn't want to have a conflict with Du Bai. However, Shi Xian wasn't the kind of person who would give up without a fight. He was indifferent to life and death. If Du Bai was going too far, then they would have to fight him first. The first option is for you to return my body to me and find another body to possess and be reborn. Brother, you're forcing me. Shi Xian shook his head. It's impossible to possess or reincarnate before becoming a primordial spirit. Please tell me the second choice. The second choice is very simple. Du Bai stared at Shi Xian and raised his head proudly. Since you are related to that senior, I want to see what you are capable of. You can make that senior choose you after choosing me. He even gave you my body. So, after we become primordial spirits, we'll fight again. If I lose, there's no need to talk about it. If you lose, return my body to me and I'll let your soul reincarnate. Okay. Shi Xian felt a sense of pride. After we become primordial spirits, we'll fight and see who's better. If you lose, I'll let your soul reincarnate too. Very good. Du Bai nodded and looked deeply at Shi Xian. Remember, your body is mine. Don't die before you become a primordial spirit. After saying that, Du Bai flicked his sleeves, turned around, and used the wind escape technique to fly into the sky. Hey, there's still the spoils of war. Shi Xian saw the tiger demon and its Dharma artifact, the black flag, and shouted at Du Bai. Spoils of war, Du Bai frowned. He was so focused on acting tough that he forgot about the spoils of war? It's just that, if he went back to pick up the spoils of war now, that would be too embarrassing. My Tao is based on my heart and me. I don't rely on external objects. Dharma artifacts are like floating clouds to me. My own hands are my strongest strength. After stabilizing his, acting tough, Du Bai flicked his sleeves and flew into the sky without looking back. In an instant, he disappeared without a trace. A high-grade Dharma artifact. There was no other one like it in the entire middle ground. Even if he didn't use it, it was still valuable. If he didn't leave quickly, Du Bai was afraid that he wouldn't be able to resist turning back. Fellow Taoists, Tao is indeed profound. The firmness of your heart is rarely seen in the world. Shi Xian praised, stepped forward, and put away the black flag. Such a precious high-grade Dharma artifact is not even in your eyes. Fellow Taoist, Du Bai's heart and cultivation are much stronger than mine. I have a hobby of collecting. Okay, collecting, isn't it just being greedy? Who are you trying to fool by saying it so tactfully? Whether it's being greedy for money, not relying on external objects, or even slaughtering the world, this is one's nature. There's no difference in superiority or inferiority. There's no superiority or inferiority, the Tao is equal. As long as it's the nature of one's heart, one can attain Tao. Therefore, demonic sects can also attain Tao, and Taoist sects can also attain Tao. Good has good Tao, evil has evil Tao, there's no difference in superiority or inferiority. Wait a minute, what Du Bai said just now, why does it sound so awkward? At this time, Shi Xian suddenly remembered Du Bai's words, your body is mine. Although this was the truth. But the more he thought about it, the more terrifying it was. His chrysanthemum tightened and Shi Xian shuddered. He hurriedly took a deep breath, calmed his mind, and cut off all these terrifying thoughts. Fellow Taoist, Du Bai's cultivation has already surpassed mine by a realm. I have to catch up. Shi Xian used a sweet rain talisman and a poison-dispelling talisman to wake up the swordsman Yan Jujian and the scholar Ding Mingde. Shi Xian planned to study this black flag. A ghost demon? After the scholar and the swordsman woke up, they saw the huge two-headed tiger, and were scared to the point of breaking out in cold sweat. Brother Shi, the two looked at Shi Xian as if they were looking at an immortal. That's not my doing. Just now, an expert made a move and killed this tiger demon. The tiger's bones and meat are extraordinary, and full of qi and blood. It's a great tonic. You guys scrape it. Today we'll eat tiger meat. Shi Xian instructed the two, then sat cross-legged on the ground and began to examine this black flag. White bone soul enslaving banner. The peak of the 7th heavenly layer already has 63 layers of restrictions? Good heavens, it's really a treasure! The 72 layers of restrictions were the peak of magic tools. Now, this white bone soul enslaving banner actually had 63 layers of restrictions. It was already a peak magic tool. Fellow Taoist Du Bai is really too generous. He didn't even care about such a treasure. His determination is admirable. Actually, Du Bai's heart was bleeding. Chapter 10:17. Using the Yin wind escape, Du Bai tore through the air. After subduing the tens of thousands of starved ghosts of Mount Tongxian and refining the pure soul energy, Du Bai's soul cultivation had once again soared. Using the Yin wind escape, he actually flew for more than 200 li before feeling that his primal qi was running out. Landing in a forest outside a small town, Du Bai sat down cross-legged and calmed his mind to cultivate his qi and recover his primal qi. What I said just now, only one's heart and self, not relying on external objects, seems to fit the essence of the comfort technique. Originally, it was just a sentence to maintain his face, but now Du Bai felt like he was suddenly enlightened. That's right. Only one's heart and self, I am the one. Magic tools, magic treasures, spiritual pills, immortal pills, they are all external objects, not the foundation. Putting down the high-grade magic tool black banner, and understanding the true meaning of only one's heart and self, Du Bai felt like his soul had been cleansed, becoming even purer. Why did I want that high-grade magic tool? Is it because I need it? Is it because my heart needs it? No, it's because of greed. That black banner was of no fundamental help to Du Bai's cultivation. It was not something he needed. He wanted it only because it was precious, only because of the greed in his heart. That is desire, but not the heart. Following one's heart and desires, the key was not desire, but the heart. Only one's heart and self, the heart was the foundation. Indulging one's desires would only lead to depravity. Suddenly enlightened, Du Bai laughed heartily. His mind became even purer, his heart even firmer. In his pure white sea of consciousness, Du Bai's soul also emitted a pure white light. Although it was weak, it already had the characteristics of only one's heart and self. At this moment, Du Bai's comfort technique could be considered to have truly been initiated. Different people had different Taos. Not wanting the black banner was Du Bai's Tao. Wanting the black banner was Shi Xian's Tao. The path of cultivation was to break through layers of fog and reveal one's true nature. The night passed. When the morning sun shone into the forest, Du Bai's soul cultivation underwent a huge change. After fusing with the spiritual energy of countless ghosts, the spiritual energy was extremely pure, without any impurities, so there was no problem in fusing with the spiritual energy. However, the rapidly increasing power of his divine soul brought about another problem. That was, Du Bai wasn't able to control the power of his spirit, which had skyrocketed. On the path of cultivation, one had to take one step at a time. One had to be firm and steady in order to go further. If he neglected his control, Du Bai might not have any problems in the short term. However, when he advanced to Jin Dan, it would be a big problem. Jin Dan was of the 3rd grade. Only an upper grade Jin Dan had the possibility of advancing to the primordial spirit. If he did not train his control to the finest detail, there would be no chance for him to advance to a high-grade Jin Dan. After a night of cultivation, Du Bai understood his own true heart and cut off greed, causing the essence of his soul to have the characteristics of idealism. After the essence was raised, the skyrocketing power of his spiritual energy was completely integrated into the will of idealism. Everything was under his control. No matter how much spiritual energy there was, it was the only. It had to be integrated into the only. In the end, only the only was left. Since it was the only, there was no problem of not being able to control it. He walked out of the forest and stepped into the small town. Invite the deity tablet. Everyone back away. Just as he walked into the small town, he saw a group of people walking over, blowing and beating. Gongs and drums filled the sky, and firecrackers sounded in unison. A middle-aged man dressed in silk walked over respectfully with a deity tablet in his hands. Get out of the way. Don't you see Shinjuan's deity tablet? Du Bai was still somewhat confused when he suddenly heard an auntie pointing at him and scolding him. Shinjun. Du Bai frowned and activated the eye of the demonic. He saw the divine light rising from the deity tablet. It really is the incense god. Cultivators of the divine path were also cultivators. In a place like Zhongzhou, where it was rare to encounter cultivators, Du Bai suddenly saw an incense god. His interest was somewhat piqued. After getting out of the way, Du Bai walked to the side of the street and asked the auntie just now. Auntie, this one has just arrived at your honorable place, so I don't know much about Shinjun. Would you please enlighten me? This is Qixia Shinjun. Shinjun saves people in distress, and his magic power is boundless. In addition to protecting the peace of the family and curing illnesses, praying to Shinjun for children is also very effective. The auntie said a lot of things in her head. Du Bai understood the meaning behind the phrase, the delivery of children is effective. Giving children to Shinjun? That's interesting. As a cultivator, how could Du Bai not know what the incense divine path was all about? Souls were worshipped by incense, and with the power of incense, they condensed a divine body, materialized a deity name, deity position, and finally condensed a godhead. Although this was also a path of cultivation, success and failure depended on incense. Once one lost faith and had no incense, the deity would be gone. In a place like Zhongzhou, what realm can an incense god cultivate to? Giving children. If you had the power to create living beings, would you still stay in Zhongzhou? Du Bai sneered in his heart. This so-called, giving children to Shinjun, must be lust. Deities are also great nourishment. Freedom law plundered everything. Things like deities were much stronger than wandering ghosts. Du Bai already had plans to treat this, giving children to Shinjun, as a snack. From the deity tablet just now, I can see the source of the divine light. Is it Feng State City? Du Bai laughed and walked out of the town. He found a deserted place and used the wind escape to rush to Feng State City. One day later, Du Bai arrived at Feng State City. Walking into Feng State City, in Du Bai's eyes, the whole city was filled with a dense divine light, like a red glow lingering endlessly. In Feng State City, the place with the densest red glow was the Crimson Afterglow Temple. Let's see what kind of person this Qixia Shinjun is first. Know yourself and know your enemy, and you will never be defeated. Du Bai would not act rashly. He would first understand the enemy's situation before making any plans. Following groups of believers in the city to the Crimson Afterglow Temple to burn incense, Du Bai leisurely walked into the Crimson Afterglow Temple. At this time, there was a woman in the temple who was asking for a child from Shinjun. Madame Zhang, this is Shinjuan's deity statue. The temple attendant took out a red box and handed it to the woman. Please return to the deity statue and take a bath. Place the deity statue in your room, burn incense and kowtow, and your wish will come true. Thank you, Shinjun. Thank you, Sir Temple Attendant. Madame Zhang was overjoyed as she took the statue back. Ha! So that's how it is. Du Bai saw through the trick of Xinjun giving a child. This deity statue was a location marker. In the dead of the night, the bathed woman kowtowed and prayed to Xinjun, and then Xinjun came. If the first time did not work, then the second time did not work. If the second time did not work, then the third time did not work. If this kind of giving a child did not work, then there would be a ghost. I only want to know one question. If the one who came to ask for a child was a big, round, and ugly woman, when she came to ask for a child, Xinjun, will it work or not? If it didn't work, it would affect the incense. If it worked, Du Bai almost couldn't help but laugh out loud. Chapter 10:18. The Tang Dynasty provincial governor is seeking medical treatment. As soon as Du Bai walked out of the Red Afterglow temple, he heard the sound of gongs and drums in front of him. He looked up and saw a red list hanging high on the wall of the Tang Dynasty provincial governor's mansion. The Tang Dynasty provincial governor is seriously ill. He is seeking medical treatment with a large sum of money. Du Bai walked over and saw the red list. He sneered in his heart. You can hide it from others, but can you hide it from my demonic eye? Although the divine light in Feng State City is concentrated in the Red Afterglow Temple, I can see the connection of the incense at a glance. Isn't the Tang Dynasty provincial governor Xinjun the child giver? However, this also gave Du Bai a chance. Lord Xinjun the child giver, let me treat you properly. You have been child giver for so many years. Did you get a flower? Or is it impotence? Du Bai snickered in his heart, but his face had a serious expression. I am proficient in the art of medicine. I am willing to serve the Tang Dynasty provincial governor. Du Bai walked to the front of the list and bowed to Yamachi, who was guarding the list. Oh? This young master is proficient in the art of medicine? You are not old, right? Which of the Xinglin national masters is not an old man? Young master is proficient in the art of medicine. Who are you trying to fool? Yamachi glanced at Du Bai with a face full of suspicion. You have palpitations all year round, and you have asthma and dizziness. Also, you are weak in bed. Even if you hold a spear and mount a horse, in the blink of an eye, under the eye of the heavenly devil, wouldn't he be able to see through the details of a mortal at a glance? Master! Master! Please come in. Please come in. When Yamachi heard this, he quickly interrupted and hurriedly welcomed Du Bai into the Tang Dynasty provincial governor's mansion. How could he say something like, lack strength in bed, in front of so many people? Master, you are too straightforward, aren't you? Yamachi cursed in his heart. Following Yamachi, Du Bai stepped into the Tang Dynasty provincial governor's mansion. Steward Wang, this is the medical master that I found. Yamachi led Du Bai into the mansion and came before a black-robed old man. A medical master? Are you kidding me? When Butler Wang saw Du Bai's age, he immediately flew into a rage. He pointed at Yamachi and roared, Zhang-san, where are your eyes? This person was not even 20 years old. How could he be a medical master? Why aren't you beating him up? You have phlegm and dreams at night, night sweats and palpitations, you get up frequently at night and sexual intercourse. Ah! Master, you are indeed a master. Housekeeper Wang was still angry, but when he heard Du Bai's words, his face turned pale and he quickly stopped him. Grandmaster, please follow me. He turned around and led Du Bai into the inner courtyard. After passing through several gardens, they came to a secluded and cold courtyard. My lord is inside. The steward walked to the cold courtyard and turned to tell Du Bai, after my lord fell ill. He is afraid of heat and likes cold. His body is sore and itchy all over. Recently, there are even signs of ulceration. Please treat him carefully. I understand. Du Bai nodded and laughed in his heart. Afraid of heat and cold? He should be afraid of heat and cold. As for the ulceration all over his body, well, this was not because he had given too many children that he had contracted some strange disease of love. "Milord, this lowly one has found a divine doctor to treat you." The steward knocked on the courtyard door and reported inside. "Medical master?" A voice full of energy came from the courtyard. Anyone who heard this voice would not think that this person was sick. "Medical master. My illness is not medical. Never mind, let him in." The Tang, provincial governor, originally wanted to refuse, but after thinking about it, he agreed. After all, his illness had an extraordinary origin. It was almost impossible for medical skills to cure him. But what if? "Grandmaster, please." The steward pushed open the courtyard door and gestured for Du-Bai to enter. Walking into the courtyard, the entire courtyard was very cool. The dense forest blocked the entire courtyard from sunlight. There was a small building next to the pond in the courtyard. Walking into the small building, he saw a luxurious large bed in the middle of the room. A middle-aged man with a ruddy complexion was lying on the bed. A beautiful woman was carefully attending to him. The man lying on the bed was naturally the Tang, provincial governor. The Tang, provincial governor's appearance was extraordinary. He had thick eyebrows, big eyes, a solemn face, and a long beard. He was full of energy and had a ruddy complexion. There was no sign of illness at all. "Greetings, Tang, provincial governor." Du-Bai walked in and bowed to the Tang, provincial governor. "You are a medical master?" The provincial governor threw a glance at Du-Bai and a hint of suspicion appeared on his face. There is no seniority in learning. The one who has reached the top is the teacher. Whether I am a medical master or not, the Tang, provincial governor, will know after you test me. Du-Bai replied calmly. "Haha, that makes sense." The Tang, provincial governor, nodded. Then, he turned to the beautiful woman beside him and said, "Madam, please go rest in the West Maple courtyard. Then, I will take my leave." The Tang, provincial governor's wife, looked at the Tang, provincial governor, with concern. Then, she turned and walked out of the courtyard. After a while, only Du-Bai and the Tang, provincial governor, were left in the courtyard. "Thank you for your trouble." The Tang, provincial governor, smiled at Du-Bai and extended his hand. "This humble one will do his best." Walking to the bed, Du-Bai put his hand on the Tang, provincial governor's pulse and checked the Tang, provincial governor's pulse. "Do you have any clue?" After checking the pulse, the Tang, provincial governor, smiled at Du-Bai. The Tang, provincial governor's illness, this humble one already knows. Du-Bai looked at the Tang, provincial governor, and shook his head with a smile. "Mr. Tang, provincial governor, you are not sick." Okay, thank you for your trouble, doctor." The Tang, provincial governor, shook his head helplessly. "How can you be sick? You are a god." Du-Bai smiled and waved his hand. "Hello, Shinjun." "What?" Hearing this, the Tang, provincial governor, was shocked. He put his hands together and the sky was filled with red clouds. Red lotuses flashed and the whole room was illuminated by a sacred light. The red lotuses turned into scorching flames and swept towards Du-Bai. "It's useless." Du-Bai smiled and pointed his finger. A cold and white chill lingered on the tip of his finger. "Don't you like the cold and hate the heat? Let me give you something cold." With a point of his finger, the cold chill whizzed out. It was as if winter had arrived and the whole room was covered in ice and snow. As a matter of fact, this cold air was much colder than the cold winter of the year. This was Du-Bai's innate ability, the netherworld chill. Under the 9 underworlds, the cold air of the frost hell was not something that could be compared to the cold of winter. Crack, crack. With a sweep of the cold air, the entire building was frozen into an ice sculpture, together with the provincial governor. Thief. The frozen Tang, provincial governor, emitted a red light from the top of his head and a red lotus bloomed. On the lotus sat a sacred and glorious god. "You're finally out? I've been waiting for you." Dubai sneered and pointed his finger like a sword. A pure white light rushed out from the tip of his finger and slashed down at Qixia Shinjun like a sharp sword. Mystic Yin Ghost Slaying Technique. The god of incense was originally a ghost that became a god. The mystic Yin Ghost Slaying Technique could slay ghosts and gods with a single slash. With a shrill scream, Qixia Shinjun, who had just broken out of his shell, had his divine body destroyed by the slash and turned into a mass of red clouds. Only the mind and only the self, freedom and eternity. The pure white light rolled and the red clouds were instantly collected by the white light. "Who are you? Why did you come to harm me?" Although his divine body was destroyed, Qixia Shinjuan's spiritual consciousness was still there, and he was still shouting in shock and anger. "Who I am is not important." Dubai smiled. "I'll tell you the truth and let you die a more painful death. In fact, you're not sick at all. The path of godhood is the cultivation method of the Yin soul. You cultivate the path of incense as a human body. The stronger your path of godhood is, the stronger the Yin energy is, and the body will naturally rot. In fact, you can completely abandon your mortal body and directly reconstruct your divine body." Qixia Shinjun was stunned. "So, I'm not sick at all?" "Yes, if you abandon your mortal body and reconstruct your divine body, it will be very difficult for me to defeat you. After all, as long as your will is not extinguished, you can use incense to be reborn." "Goodbye, Shinjun." The white light swept up and instantly annihilated the red clouds, leaving only Qixia Shinjuan's shrill howl. "I hate you." His voice lingered in the air. The child-giving Shinjun was officially destroyed. Chapter 10:19. The soul of an out-of-aperture realm incense god is indeed powerful. The incense golden body, which was formed by the power of incense and faith from all living beings, was actually formed by the power of the soul. After breaking down and refining Qixia Shinjun and absorbing the pure soul power, Dubai's soul had grown tremendously. Now that his soul had left his body, he could travel thousands of miles with the wind. There are very few cultivators in Zhongzhou. I'd like to see what this Qixia Shinjun is made of. Activating the demonic eye, Dubai searched the courtyard and found a secret compartment on the bed where the Tang Dynasty provincial governor was lying. He opened the secret compartment and found a package inside. There were 4 things in the package. The first was a book with the words, "Incense Golden Body" written on it. This was the divine path cultivation method that the Tang Dynasty provincial governor practiced. Dubai had no interest in it. Even if he didn't have the comfort technique, Dubai wouldn't walk on the divine path. After all, the divine path had too many limitations. The second item was a luminous pearl. This was a worldly item and had no value at all. This is. The third item was a piece of white metal the size of a fingertip. When he saw this piece of metal, Dubai could clearly feel a sharp aura rushing up to his forehead and piercing his skin. Is this Tai Gung metal? There was a section in the comfort technique that introduced heavenly materials and earthly treasures. There were also various methods of refining Dharma artifacts, Dharma treasures, and spiritual pills. This piece of white metal in front of him was the metal attribute heavenly material, Tai Gung metal. This thing is indeed a treasure. Unfortunately, I don't have much use for it. He had already decided to cultivate without relying on external objects. Gungjin, this kind of refining material, did not have much value to Dubai. At most, it was used to sell for money. Ignoring the Gung metal, Dubai looked at the 4th item. This was a command token that was neither made of metal nor wood, and there were numerous profound runes inscribed on it. Under the eye of the heavenly devil, this token faintly revealed a trace of divine aura. Unfortunately, Dubai's cultivation level was not high enough, so he could not see through it. This should be the place where Tang, provincial governor, obtained the divine Tao technique. A token to enter a secret realm? Dubai nodded. This token was quite useful. The secret realms and caverns of supreme Tao cultivators should have a lot to gain. With a wave of his hand, a white light flashed and the 4 items were stored in the storage space of the jade slip in his mind. Activating the wind escape, Dubai's figure flashed and instantly left the Tang Dynasty provincial governor's mansion. He's here too? Riding the wind, Dubai flew across the sky of Feng State City. Suddenly, he realized that there was also a gust of wind whistling by. Looking carefully, that person was Shi Xian. So it's Taoist brother Dubai. The gust of wind turned and stopped in front of Dubai. Shi Xian's figure appeared and cupped his hands toward Dubai. I just saw the red clouds in Feng State City collapse, and Qixia Shenjuan's statue collapse. I was wondering. So it was Taoist brother who took action. You want to stand up for Qixia Shenjun? Dubai glanced at Shi Xian and snorted. You've reached the out-of-body realm, and your cultivation has improved greatly. You want to wrestle with me? No. Shi Xian shook his head. Qixia Shenjun did all kinds of evil. You killed him to punish evil and promote good. Why would I stand up for him? Then why did you stop me? Dubai snorted unhappily. This, Shi Xian smiled embarrassedly. I promised to find a divine Tao technique for someone. Seeing that Taoist brother killed Qixia Shenjun, I wanted to ask if Taoist brother had obtained Qixia Shenjuan's Taoist scripture. Incense refining golden body. Qixia Shenjuan's divine Tao technique is indeed in my hands. Dubai glanced coldly at Shi Xian. But why should I give it to you? Shi Xian heard this and felt even more awkward. The two of them were not friends. They were more like enemies. It was not right to take someone else's things for no reason. If you want the incense refining golden body technique, you have to return what my master left me. Dubai glanced at Shi Xian and looked at the cloth bag Shi Xian was carrying. Okay. Shi Xian nodded and hurriedly took off the cloth bag. I used a few talismans and the requiem incense. Everything else is still here. But what? Dubai's brows furrowed, his expression somewhat unhappy. But I gave the pure truth scripture to the Su family, and also to the scholar and the swordsman. What? Hearing this, Dubai was furious. The Su family is not a big deal. They are my master's family. Giving it to them is like returning it to its rightful owner. The scholar and the swordsman are nothing. They don't deserve it. Well, I think their temperaments and talents are not bad. In the central continent, I'm afraid that we're the only 2 true cultivators. Master Su's inheritance can't be lost. So, I gave the pure truth scripture to the scholar and the swordsman. Shi Xian smiled embarrassedly. They all have a master, so they can carry forward the pure truth sect. You're right. You've thought it through. Dubai nodded. Suddenly, a cold light flashed in his eyes. But what right do you have to make the decision for me? A mighty white light shot up to the sky. The cold crescent moon blade was hovering at his fingertip. Crescent moon blade. He waved his hand and the cold crescent moon blade chopped down at Shi Xian's head. Hey, are you serious? Shi Xian was frightened. He hurriedly took out the black flag and a black light shot out to block the crescent moon blade. Boom! There was an explosion in the sky. It was like a bolt from the blue. A fierce wind surged up. In Feng State City, the roofs of a row of houses were blown off. Tiles flew everywhere. People screamed in panic. Brother, let's talk. Shi Xian didn't want to fight in the sky of Feng State City. He hurriedly used the breeze escape and flew out of the city. Give it back to me. Dubai saw that Shi Xian was running away. He hurriedly shouted and chased after him. Good. Here you go. They landed on a hill outside the city. Shi Xian took the bag and threw it at Du Bai. Humph! He reached out and caught the bag. He opened the bag and saw that the pure truth scripture was still there, but a few charms were missing. Du Bai snorted. He waved his hand and a white light flashed. The bag was put into the storage space of the jade slip. From now on, you are not allowed to spread the pure truth scripture. Otherwise, I will make you pay for it. Du Bai stared at Shi Xian fiercely. He was still angry. At this moment, Shi Xian had reached the out-of-body stage. He also had the upper-grade magic weapon, the Black Banner. If they really fought, it would be hard to say who would win. Although Du Bai was a little annoyed at Shi Xian's decision, he couldn't do anything to Shi Xian. I was just being nice. Oh, okay. Okay. I will never spread the scripture of returning to nature again. Seeing that Du Bai was about to lose his temper again, Shi Xian hurriedly agreed. Remember your words. Du Bai snorted. He waved his hand and took out Qixia Xinjuan's bag from the storage space. I am a man of my word. This is for you. He opened the bag and threw the incense golden body book to Shi Xian. Thank you. Reaching out to take the book, Shi Xian expressed his gratitude happily. Then, is that gung metal? Seeing the finger-sized white metal in the bag, Shi Xian stared blankly and shouted in surprise. Gungjin was a necessary item for Shi Xian to cultivate one of the divine powers in the Shangqing collection. Shi Xian needed this kind of treasure very much. But how could he get it from Du Bai? Chapter 10:20. What? You want it? Upon hearing Shi Xuan's exclamation, Du Bai glanced at Shi Xuan from the corner of his eyes. A hint of mockery flashed across his face. This, Shi Xian scratched his head, momentarily in a dilemma. It seems that our paths of cultivation are different. Du Bai had always thought that Shi Xian had also obtained the inheritance of the great Freedom Demon Master. Even if it was the same cultivation technique, different people would have different paths of cultivation. It was not strange that Shi Xian needed the gung metal. The gung metal is indeed useless to me. But why should I give it to you? Du Bai grabbed the gung metal and held it in his hand. He looked at Shi Xian with a faint smile. What are you going to give me in exchange? Brother, what do you want? Seeing Du Bai's attitude, Shi Xian naturally knew that Du Bai already had plans to make a deal with him. But he did not know what Du Bai wanted. If it was the body, Shi Xian would rather die than submit. In the central continent, the only truly terrifying cultivators are the two of us. But we both know very well that there must be a cultivation world in this world. After obtaining the inheritance of the great Freedom Demon Master, Du Bai understood a lot of cultivation knowledge. This world was incomparably vast. But how could he leave the central continent? My request is very simple. Next, I will look everywhere for a way to leave the central continent. If I find it first, then so be it. But if you find it first, you must inform me. Du Bai looked at Shi Xian and stated his request. Okay. I'll agree to it. After reaching the astral projection realm, cultivation became more and more difficult. Leaving the central continent was inevitable. Shi Xian had already made this decision. Once he found a way to leave, bringing Du Bai along was not a big deal. Then it's a deal. Du Bai nodded and threw the gung jin to Shi Xian. Remember your promise. With a flick of his sleeve, Du Bai flew away in a streak of light. Gung metal is finally in our hands. Shi Xian's heart was filled with joy as he received the gung metal. With this piece of gung metal, he would be able to cultivate a divine ability from the Shangqing collection, the Extreme Yin Lung Meridian Gung Metal Sword Qi. As for the other four divine abilities, metal, wood, water, fire, and earth, they have all 5 elements. It was a pity that the materials for cultivating divine abilities were simply too rare. I hope I can find a way to leave the central state. Otherwise, I really can't continue practicing. With a flicker of his body, Shi Xian also flew away. Shi Xian and Du Bai were still looking for a way to leave the central province. At this time, little Li Yu was also depressed and speechless. Senior sister, why did you come in when I was bathing? On the top floor of Shunshao Palace, Li Yu was lying in a pool made of jade, leisurely soaking in the hot spring. Then, Yu Shenshao angrily barged in. Bastard! Yu Shenshao pointed at Li Yu and roared, "This is extreme cold spirit jade, you actually used it to make a pool? Also, you actually used heavenly dew sweet rain spring to soak in your bath? Come out, I promise I won't beat you to death." How big of a deal is that? Li Yu waved his hand without a care. These things are just so. It's not like they're some peerless divine item, there's nothing special about them. But, you bastard, why did you put the bath water back into the pure jade bottle? I've been using heavenly dew sweet rain spring to make tea these past few days. You want me to drink your bath water? Go die. Yu Shenshao roared and shot out a streak of lightning with a wave of her hand. Buzz buzz, streaks of lightning shot up from the pool, filling the sky with lightning, enveloping the entire pool. Ah! Evil woman, you're too ruthless! Li Yu screamed and jumped out of the pool. Although Yu Shenshao had a sense of propriety and did not use any great divine ability. But it was also very painful to be electrocuted like this. With Li Yu's current realm, how could he withstand this kind of divine ability? Evil woman? Hee, I'll let you see what an evil woman is. Hearing the words evil woman, Yu Shenshao flew into a rage again. Streaks of lightning shot out and chased after Li Yu to beat him up. Poor Big Boss Li, who had never suffered a loss in all the worlds, was now being chased and beaten by a mere half-step golden immortal. That scene was simply too horrible to look at. If you attack again, I won't be polite anymore. Li Yu was so angry that his hair stood on end. He was so depressed that he did not know what to say. Not polite? How can you not be polite? Yu Shenshao grimaced, and the lightning in her hand flashed even more fiercely. Your cultivation path was broken 1,000,000 years ago. Don't you want to take another step forward? If you continue, I won't guide you anymore. Li Yu raised his head and stood with his hands behind his back, looking like he was saying, "Come and beg me. Guide me? Just you? If you were really a Tao integration golden immortal, or even a creation realm mighty figure, would you need to reincarnate? Can you be stronger than me?" Yu Shenshao waved her hand again, and an electric snake rose from her fingertips. Stop. Stop. Big Boss Li knew the principle of, a wise man does not know when the odds are against him, and a good man does not fight with a woman, so he quickly lowered his posture. The Shangqing collection does not only have yin-yang, taiji, daoda, yin-yang, life and death, and karma. I have a new realization. Tell me about it. Yu Shenshao kept the electric snake in her hand and looked at Li Yu with interest. Then, she giggled again. Next time when you call yourself can you put on some clothes first? Huh. Big Boss Li was shocked. Only then did he realize that he was clean and very clean. See no evil. Bastard. With a furious roar, Big Boss Li hurriedly waved his hand and took out his clothes, putting them back on neatly. How old are you? See no evil. Yu Shenshao pursed her lips, not caring about the see no evil at all. All right, tell me what realization you have. Yu Shenshao knew that Li Yu was the reincarnation of a mighty figure, so she was interested in his realization. You have the great Tao of lightning. Although the great Tao of lightning is also one of the 3,000 great Tao, it is not a connate great Tao. Therefore, your path is stuck at the first stage of the Tao convergence stage. Only by elevating the Tao of lightning to the connate great Tao can you possibly advance further. Li Yu waved his hand and took out a futon. He sat cross-legged on the ground and spoke frankly. Say something useful. Yu Shenshao waved her hand impatiently. You really don't have any patience. Li Yu shook his head pretentiously. Alright, the great Tao of lightning. What is lightning? You have the great Tao of lightning. Naturally, you know that among the countless worlds in this void universe, there are also worlds that use electricity as a source of energy, right? Yes. I have indeed seen them. The vital energy of heaven and earth in that world is very thin, but the use of electricity is very widespread. When I had the great Tao of lightning, I had stayed in that world for a few hundred years. Yu Shunshao nodded, then looked at Li Yu hopefully. Could it be that there is something I have not discovered about the great Tao of lightning? Lightning is born from the intersection of yin and yang. Could it be that you did not discover the relationship between the power of lightning and the power of magnetism in that world? The great Tao of lightning can also extend the great Tao of magnetism. By extension, all things have magnetism, which is the power of heaven and earth. In the end, you can prove the great Tao of power. Li Yu chuckled and concluded. This technique is called universal gravitation. Thus, the great hoodwinker Li tricked her into saying universal gravitation. According to modern scientific research, electromagnetic force and gravity were the four basic forces. They were the foundation of the universe, so they were naturally connate great Taos. Chapter 10:21. Electricity? Magnetism? Gravitation? The path of strength? Yu Shinxiao's eyes grew brighter and brighter. That's right. Electromagnetism, the path of strength, gravitation. That's right. My path is complete. With a wave of her hand, a metal bullet fell into her palm. Streaks of electricity flowed, and a buzzing sound could be heard. Boom! With an earth-shattering explosion, the metal bullet turned into a ray of light and shot into the sky. Boom! A huge hole was created in the void. Holy sh*t, this is a super electromagnetic cannon, right? Li Yu blinked his eyes and suddenly felt that it was ridiculous. Speaking of which, is it really appropriate to talk about science in a Xianxiao world? If Yu Shinxiao walks on the path of electromagnetism, will she become Magneto? If she really creates gravitation in the end, then it will be interesting. The great Tao returns to one, returning to the origin. Everything is Tao. Everything is Tao. After muttering a few words in his heart, Li Yu was too lazy to pay attention to Yu Shinxiao. Yu Shinxiao happily went to study her gravitation, and Li Yu also wanted to study his own great Tao. With the Shangqing collection as the foundation, I don't need to pay attention to the great Tao of yin and yang. My Tao is naturally order and matter. Li Yu chuckled. What is yin and yang? In my opinion, yin and yang refers to change. Everything in the world is changing. The law of change is order. The great Tao had long been understood, and the only thing that needed to be done was to recreate the process in this world from this result. So, it's time for me to raise my realm. After the out-of-body state, the realm was qi drawing. Drawing qi into the body, fusing it with the inner qi, and turning it into true qi. This true qi was actually the fusion of the qi of heaven and earth with one's own body. This was magic power. For ordinary cultivators, drawing qi into the body was very dangerous. Opening the inner and outer worlds, heaven and man were connected. The fragile body would be torn to pieces by the violent qi of heaven and earth if one was not careful. Isn't the so-called carelessness a result of not having enough operational skills? Naturally, I don't have this problem. The qi of heaven and earth was energy. Matter and energy belonged to the origin of matter. Li Yu had been in control of the origin of matter for many years. He was the master of the origin of heaven and earth. Although the spirit-severing stage couldn't be compared to the spirit-severing stage, it didn't take much effort to control the spirit-severing stage. With a thought, the origin energy of heaven and earth swarmed toward him. The orthodox cultivation method of the Shangqing collection cultivates the Samadhi celestial wind. At this stage, absorbing the power of the wind between heaven and earth. Using the agility of the wind to comprehend the principles of yin and yang. Liu smiled. I walk the path of order, everything is order. Naturally, it can absorb any kind of yuan qi, and it must be absorbed. The power of the 5 elements, the power of wind and thunder, the power of light and darkness, the power of time and space, and all sorts of yuan qi of the world swarmed into his body. Order controls everything. With a thought, the origin of heaven and earth that had entered his body began to arrange itself according to Liu's origin of order, transforming into a multicolored stream of air, but it wasn't in the form of yin and yang. Right, this is only the origin of order. It lacks the origin of matter. In order to allow the various kinds of yuan qi of heaven and earth to mix and fuse into one, the qi of heaven and earth had to be added. Thus, the various kinds of yuan qi of heaven and earth would be fused into one. Although I haven't obtained the grand Tao of the 5 elements of this world. However, the Shangqing collection also has a supreme grand Tao that fuses the 5 elements. This is also the origin of Shi Xian's Fate Destroyer Grand Tao. With this foundation, the origin of Liu's comprehension of the 5 elements could be explained. Things like the laws of heaven and earth have no intelligence. Everything operates according to order. As long as I have a reasonable reason, I won't be rejected by heaven and earth. In any case, whether it was the Shangqing True Legacy or the Grand Tao of the 5 elements, they were all just a pretense that Liu used to fool the heavenly Tao. What he wanted to cultivate was still something that belonged to him. At the beginning of the chaos, yin and yang appeared, and the qi of heaven and earth, the qi of heaven and earth was born. After adding the comprehension of the origin of matter, the yuan qi of heaven and earth that had fused into his body rapidly fused. The 5 elements, wind and thunder, light and darkness, fused into one, transforming into the qi of heaven and earth. After that, it fused with the power of time and space and the origin of order, finally transforming into the qi of yin and yang. The intertwining true qi of black and white circulated within his body, finally returning to his dantian, transforming into a ball of true qi of yin and yang. It seems like this is the Shangqing Yu's great yin-yang true qi. In reality, my qi of yin and yang contains all the changes and laws of matter and order. It's fundamentally different from the simple yin and yang. With a smile, Liu withdrew his cultivation and stood up. With a wave of his hand, a gust of wind swept up. This is the Samadhi Celestial Wind True Qi. The Samadhi Celestial Wind True Qi, that I derived from my own matter and order. Unless it's the Yu Daoren, no one will be able to see any difference between it and the Shangqing True Legacy. Advancing to the Qi Gatherer stage, after condensing Baleful Star and 9 transformations of True Qi, he would be able to advance to the Divine Soul stage. It's said that the most talented person in this world can only enter the Qi Gatherer stage when they're in their teens. I entered the Qi Gatherer stage when I wasn't even 4 years old. If this were to spread, wouldn't it scare a bunch of people to death? Liu was immensely pleased with himself. That's right. I've already been scared to death by you. With a flash of light, Yu Xinxiao's figure appeared in front of Liu. You're the reincarnation of a powerful person. Aren't you embarrassed to compare yourself with those ordinary cultivators? Hee. Wasn't I just joking? Liu smiled and shook his head. He raised his eyes to look at Yu Xinxiao. How is it? How's your understanding of gravitational force? There aren't any obstructions with the magnetic force. It's easy to understand. Right now, I'm already able to convert the power of electricity into magnetic force. It's just that I can still only sense the gravitational force between the stars. Everything has gravitational force. I'm still unable to grasp it. Yu Xinxiao raised her eyes to look at Liu. Her eyes revealed a bit of hope, hoping to receive some pointers from Liu. Want pointers? Liu raised his head high and glanced at Yu Shenshao from the corner of his eyes. Little girl, give this lord a smile. Pa! Yu Shenshao grabbed Liu and slapped him on the butt. You want to smile, right? This old lady will let you smile. Evil woman, if you hit me again, do you believe that I'll say some nonsense to you and bring you into a ditch? The strength of this clone was still unable to resist Yu Shenshao. Liu could only threaten her verbally. Lord! You're the Lord! Yu Shenshao hurriedly put Liu down. She reached out to rub Liu's shoulder and knocked on Liu's thigh. Lord, are you satisfied? Your technique is not bad. Liu narrowed his eyes and looked like he was enjoying it. Hurry up and say it. If you don't say it, this old lady won't be polite anymore. Yu Shenshao pinched Liu's arm hard, causing Liu to grimace in pain. Enough. Enough. How big of a deal is it? Since you can feel the gravitational force of the stars, why don't you start with it? Once you grasp this power, you can try to comprehend other things. You don't even understand the concept of gradual progress. I see. Yu Shenshao nodded and turned to look at Liu. You're drawing energy into your body? You're going to condense baleful wind? Then it's not appropriate to continue staying here. Let me send you out. With a face full of smiles, she pulled Liu's hand. Then, Yu Shenshao threw Liu out. Evil woman, just you wait. The void shook, and Liu's figure instantly disappeared. Chapter 10:22. You're saying that the Emperor of Central State is also a cultivator? On this day, Du Bai received a paper crane message from Shi Xian and hurried to Luojing. Yes. Shi Xian nodded. Yesterday, I accidentally passed by the palace and suddenly felt a huge pressure. I opened my heavenly eye and saw a surge of dragon qi above the palace. The dragon qi transformed into the shape of a true dragon. Dragon qi? Is this the path of fortune or the path of national fortune? Du Bai looked at Luojing and frowned. Let's go and take a look. The two walked into Luojing and arrived near the palace. It's indeed the manifestation of dragon qi. Opening the demonic eye, Du Bai saw a huge golden dragon above the palace. A vast pressure that could suppress the world filled the air, causing people's hearts to palpitate. This power definitely doesn't belong to the Emperor of the mortal world. The possibility that the Emperor of Central State is a cultivator is very high. Du Bai nodded. If the Emperor is a cultivator, with his power in charge of a country, it's very likely that he knows how to leave Central State. I think so too. Therefore, we need to pay a visit to this fellow Taoist emperor. Shi Xian smiled and gestured with his hand. Let's go. With that, the two of them rose into the air, intending to fly straight into the palace. From their point of view, even if the emperor was a cultivator, they would at most call him fellow Taoist. They didn't have much respect for the emperor. But when the two of them flew up the palace walls, roar, a loud dragon roar resounded, and the sacred virtue true dragon that was entrenched in the imperial palace suddenly burst out with an enormous and boundless pressure. It covered the sky and covered the earth, as if Mount Tai was pressing down. Under this huge pressure, the two of them felt as if a heavy mountain was pressing down on them. Their bodies sank, and they suddenly fell from the flying light and fell off the palace walls. This is, fortunately, the two of them were not weak in body refinement. After a few leaps, they stepped on the palace walls and landed on the ground, so they didn't get injured. True dragon son of heaven, holy virtue dragon qi. This fellow Taoist emperor is walking the holy virtue path of the holy emperor. The saint virtue dragon qi suppressed the world. Although this person's cultivation level isn't too high, with him presiding over the imperial palace, he has the country's providence suppressing it. We can't cast spells within the imperial palace. Du Bai shook his head. If we can't cast spells, we're no different from ordinary people. If we enter the imperial palace and anger the emperor, he might arrest us and behead us. That would be an unjust death. Looks like I have to think of another way. Shi Xian also felt that it was too dangerous to enter the imperial palace. After leaving the palace wall, the two of them followed the moat to the front gate of the palace. They wanted to find an opportunity to send a letter to the emperor and ask about the way to leave the Central Plains. Your Highness! Your Highness! Slow down. The two of them had just reached the main entrance of the palace when they suddenly heard a commotion in front of them. A little boy of about 4 years old walked out of the palace with his hands behind his back, looking like an old man. Behind the little boy, a general in armor shouted as he chased after him. Wang Baowei. Li Yu was directly thrown into the imperial palace from the Xunshao Palace by Yu Xunshao. After being nagged by his parents for a long time, he finally managed to get out. Just as he stepped out, he heard Wang Baowei shouting behind him. Li Yu turned around gloomily. Old Wang, what's the matter? Your Highness, my daughter has admired Your Highness for a long time. Get lost. Li Yu kicked Wang Baowei out. Your daughter is only 1 year old, right? She admires me? You should be more reliable when making up lies. After kicking Wang Baowei, Li Yu flung his sleeves and walked out of the imperial palace without looking back. Your Highness? Could it be the Crown Prince of the Central Plains? Seeing Li Yu walk out of the imperial palace, Du Bai and Shi Xian's eyes suddenly lit up. Wasn't this a suitable candidate to get in touch with the emperor? As for this Crown Prince's title of the reincarnation of the Holy Emperor, Du Bai and Shi Xian didn't believe it at all. How could ordinary people know what the Holy Emperor was? I, Shi Xian, greets Your Highness the Crown Prince. I, Du Bai, greets Your Highness the Crown Prince. When Li Yu walked out of the imperial palace and strolled leisurely on the streets, Shi Xian and Du Bai greeted him with smiles. Li Yu tilted his head and glanced at the two of them. You're wearing jade crowns and silk robes. Your clothes are worth more than 1,000 pieces of gold, and you call yourself I? What's so poor about you? Seeing these two guys, Big Boss Li had a wicked sense of humor. He planned to make fun of them. Shi Xian and Du Bai looked at each other. I'm just being modest. As cultivators, how can the things we have be measured by the wealth of the mortal world? Moreover, we're not poor in the mortal world. In the immortal cultivation world, we'll definitely be poor. Also, the land under the heavens belongs to the Emperor, and all the people living on the land are the Emperor's subjects. In front of this Crown Prince, you're not bowing? Li Yu glared at him. The Crown Prince was putting on airs. Du Bai and Shi Xian were speechless. We're immortals. We're immortals who eat the wind and drink the dew, free and unfettered. Why should we bow down to a little brat? How could they endure? Let's just use an illusion to trick him. After discussing it with telepathy, Shi Xian made a hand seal and used an illusion. A small stone on the ground jumped a few times and made a pring-pring sound. In the eyes of the little Crown Prince, this illusion was naturally the two of them kowtowing. These two guys, no matter which identity I have, it's enough for you to kowtow. You dare to use this to trick me? Li Yu sneered in his heart, but his face didn't change. You're still polite. Say it, why do you want to see this Crown Prince? Your Highness, we have a letter that we want Your Highness to give to the Emperor. Shi Xian took out a letter and handed it to Li Yu. No need to send the letter. Come with me. Li Yu didn't take the letter at all. He turned around and led the two of them in the direction of the returning dragon temple. Li Yu naturally knew what the two of them were thinking. Weren't they just trying to leave the central state? Your Highness, seeing Li Yu's actions, the two of them were stunned. Could it be that the Emperor wasn't in the palace? Thinking of this, the two of them quickly followed Li Yu and walked all the way to the returning dragon temple. Soon after, they arrived at the returning dragon temple. I'm back! When they arrived at the door, Li Yu kicked open the returning dragon temple's door. The two little Taoists who were dozing off in the temple were stunned. Liu? You're back? When Daquanzi heard this voice, he quickly ran out from the backyard. Greetings to Master. No. Disciple greets ancestor. Liu was about to bow to Daquanzi, but Daquanzi was so scared that he quickly kneeled on the ground. Ancestor? Him? Shi Xian and Du Bai, who were following behind Liu, were stunned. They didn't know what was going on. The Central State Emperor was a cultivator, and this crown prince was this old Taoist's ancestor. This old Taoist didn't look like much, but he faintly gave off a heart-palpitating aura. He was definitely not an ordinary person. Then, this 4-year-old little crown prince, what was his background? A less than 4-year-old ancestor? What kind of joke was this? Chapter 10:23. Get up! Get up! Liu waved his hand, gesturing for Daquanzi to get up. Our relationship is still unclear. Forget it, let's not bother about it. Founder, your aura is vaguely connected with heaven and earth. The spiritual light above your head is as bright as the moon. Your cultivation has improved again. Congratulations. Daquanzi got up. Seeing Liu's strange phenomenon, he praised him again and again. All right. Stop flattering me. Liu waved his hand and pointed at Shi Xian and Du Bai. Arrange these two guys. Arrange us. Shi Xian and Du Bai were shocked. These people were cultivators. They were sure of it. But arrange them? What did that mean? Founder, you brought these two out-of-body stage guys here. What's the matter? Daquanzi asked in confusion when he saw Shi Xian and Du Bai behind Liu. Nothing. Liu turned around and glanced at Du Bai and Shi Xian with a smile. These two guys have good aptitude. Don't waste your time in the Central Province. Throw them to the East Sea. They can really leave the Central Province. Shi Xian and Du Bai were overjoyed when they heard the conversation between the two of them. At the same time, they were slightly worried. Throw them to the East Sea? Whether it was throwing them or the East Sea, it didn't seem to be a good thing. Yes. Daquanzi accepted the order respectfully. Then, under the horrified gaze of Du Bai and Shi Xian, Daquanzi swept up Du Bai and Shi Xian with a flick of his sleeve and disappeared in a flash. The world was spinning. When Du Bai and Shi Xian regained their senses, they were already in a cave. In the cave, there was a platform engraved with mysterious runes. Rays of spiritual light flowed around it, and the sound of the void vibrated faintly. This is the teleportation depth to leave the Central Plains. I will send you to the Eastern Sea. Daquanzi waved his hand to open the teleportation array and said to the two of them, Thank you, Senior. Du Bai and Shi Xian were delighted to be able to leave the Central Plains. Even if he was worried about the unknown East Sea, there was nothing he could do. After all, Daquanzi had just swept up the two of them with his sleeve and instantly arrived at the teleportation array. The strength he had displayed was simply unfathomable. Senior, that crown prince just now. Where did he come from? Du Bai couldn't help but ask Daquanzi as they walked into the teleportation array. This Taoist priest's strength was so tyrannical, yet he still called a 4-year-old child ancestor? This was too strange. Ancestor. That's not something you can know. Daquanzi shook his head and waved his hand to activate the teleportation array. The void vibrated and the world changed. In an instant, Du Bai and Shi Xian arrived at another world. In front of them was a huge stone array. Walking out of the array, there was an empty stone room in front of them. There was only a stone door on the left. Behind the stone door was a long corridor. After walking out of the corridor, the front suddenly opened up, and there was a hubbub of voices. It was a huge town. People came and went in an endless stream. There were stalls, people buying goods, people bargaining, and people arguing. It was very lively. A breeze with the smell of the sea blew past, and the faint sound of waves could be heard. Is this the Eastern Sea? Shi Xian and Du Bai looked at each other, and with some vigilance, they carefully walked into the town. However, no one paid any attention to the arrival of the two of them. 10,000-year-old blood coral, only 3 inferior grades spiritual stones. Eastern Sea silver-armored shark, great for replenishing qi and blood, by now. Along the way, there were hawking voices everywhere, as if this was a market town in the mortal world. However, all the people coming and going were cultivators. As expected, this is the real cultivation world. The two of them looked at each other, and their faces were full of joy. Although the words, "throw it to the Eastern Sea," were a little embarrassing, it was great to be able to come to the real cultivation world from Zhongzhou. But what are spiritual stones? Along the way, they heard words like, "How many spiritual stones are you selling it for?" The two of them were not idiot. Naturally, they knew that spiritual stones were the currency of the cultivation world. We are indeed I. They did not have a single spiritual stone on them. Didn't that mean they did not have a single cent? Wasn't this I? Even food and lodging required spiritual stones. These two high and mighty immortals in Zhongzhou were even poorer than beggars after coming to the cultivation world. Looks like we can only buy some things. Talismans, cultivation methods, magic tools, these could all be sold for money. They could only rely on selling their family property to survive. The two of them helplessly shook their heads. "Hey, little guy, we meet again." Just as the two of them were preparing to sell their family property, a voice suddenly sounded behind them. Looking back, they saw a real little guy standing behind them. Crown Prince? Seeing this Crown Prince, who was not even 4 years old, Du Bai and Shi Xian were shocked, then relieved. Since he was the ancestral master, leaving Zhongzhou was as easy as going out. "Little guy, what's wrong? You don't have money? You two are really I." Liu swept a glance at the two of them, and a strange smile appeared on his face. "Do you know? In other people's eyes, you two are rich and love to show off." "Crown Prince, what do you mean?" Shi Xian was shocked. He felt that Liu's words were not good. "You have a high-grade magic tool, but you don't keep it in your storage pouch. Instead, you hold it in your hands and parade it around. Aren't you a show-off?" Liu pointed at the black banner in Shi Xian's hand. "Little guy, the cultivation world is not a kind place. You're telling others that there's a rich bumpkin here, so come and steal it." "I see." Shi Xian nodded. "Thank you for your advice, Crown Prince. All right, it's fate that we met. Here's some money, go and do whatever you want." Liu casually took out 2 high-grade spirit stones and gave one to each of them. He waved his hand. "Don't worry about it, work hard on your cultivation. I have high hopes for you too." With that, Liu put his hands behind his back and stepped into the town. A little kid with this kind of attitude, it was hilarious. Dong, at this moment a mighty bell rang. Dazzling golden clouds spread from the horizon. The golden clouds were like a golden bridge, crossing the vast sea and reaching the island. A group of figures with vast and majestic aura flew over from the golden bridge and landed on the island in an instant. That's Grandmaster Jin Dan and Supremacy Yin Shen. Penglai's sect Master Zhenren Zhang is also here. Penglai Immortal Sect is all out. What's going on? Seeing these figures, all the cultivators in the market square of Sea Island were shocked and dumbfounded. "Welcome, Ancestral Master." Penglai Sect Master Zhenren Zhang, leading a group of Jin Dan Grandmasters and Supremacy Yin Shen, bowed in the direction of the market. "Ancestral Master? Penglai Ancestral Master? Who is the Penglai Ancestral Master?" The people in the market looked at each other. Only Shi Xian and Du Bai seemed to have vaguely guessed something. "Who told you? Who told you?" At this moment, a childish voice sounded. "Is it Yu Shenxiao? Or is it Dea Quanzi? Bastard, do I still have freedom?" Under everyone's gaze, a child less than 4 years old, with his hands on his hips, pointed at the Penglai immortal sect and scolded them until they did not even dare to raise their heads. Boom! At this moment, another roar sounded from the horizon. Another long rainbow rushed from the horizon and landed on the island. Ying's Huxian School's sect master, leading a group of grandmasters, flew down from the rainbow and bowed together. Ying's Huxian School welcomes the ancestral master's return. This scene caused the entire island to fall into a dead silence. This person, this child less than 4 years old, was actually the ancestral master of Ying's Huxian School and Penglai Immortal Sect? At this moment, all the people on the island were scared silly. Chapter 1024. The Crown Prince is actually the founder of the 2 major sects? Seeing the 4-year-old child being escorted away by the experts of the 2 major sects, Du Bai and Shi Xian's hearts were truly shaken. Just now, I heard people talking about the Penglai Immortal Sect and Ying's Huxian School. They are both one of the 8 major sects of the cultivation world. Moreover, the 2 sects are as close as a family. It turns out that they have the same founder, no wonder. Shi Xian raised his eyes to the horizon, looking at the distant figures in the multicolored sky. His face was full of yearning. Although we have an inheritance, we still need someone to guide us on the path of cultivation, and someone to support us. Therefore, I plan to join an immortal sect. The 4 essentials of cultivation are dharma, companionship, wealth, and land. If you want to go far on the path of cultivation, joining a sect is a must. Du Bai nodded, but, to join a sect, you also need to choose a suitable one. For Du Bai, the foundation of his cultivation must be the art of freedom, the true method of the great Tao that points directly to the eternity of creation. In any sect, it is impossible to casually pass it on. Even if he joined a sect, it is impossible to obtain such a profound inheritance as the art of freedom. Therefore, no matter which sect he joined, Du Bai's cultivation method must still be the art of freedom. Then, he must find a sect that is related to the art of freedom. The market has information on the cultivation world sect. Let's go buy a copy and study it. Shi Xian also had the same concerns as Du Bai. The Shangqin collection was a profound and unfathomable technique. Even if he wanted to join a sect, he still needed to find a sect that was related to the Shangqin collection. In front of them was a magnificent building called Lang Huan Pavilion. It was the place to go. Guests, please come in. Under the guidance of 2 graceful and beautiful maids, Shi Xian and Du Bai stepped into this magnificent shop. There were all kinds of magical artifacts, including sabers, swords, flags, and umbrellas. They were dazzling and colorful. Such a scene was an eye-opener for the 2 bumpkins who had just arrived. Fortunately, both of them had a firm and steady temperament. Although they were extremely shocked, their expressions did not change at all. "Dear guests, what would you like to order?" Behind the counter, a woman greeted him with a smile. "Our Lang Huan Pavilion's owner is from the Penglai sect. Our reputation is outstanding, and all our products are of high quality. Please feel free to choose. Let's buy some information jade slips first." Lang Huan Pavilion also sold all kinds of information jade slip. There were secret manuals of cultivation methods, secret pill recipes, and of course, information about the 8 great sects in the world. After receiving the catalog presented by the shop assistant, the 2 of them selected a few jade slip. Encyclopedia of commonly used elementary spells, History of the cultivation world, the 8 major sects under the heavens, the geography of the 3 islands. These few jade slips were the information that the 2 of them had chosen. "Dear guests, the information you've selected is worth a total of 580 low-grade spirit stones." The shop assistant took the catalog, saw what the 2 of them had selected, and reported the price with a smile. 580 low-grade spirit stones? The Crown Prince gave me a high-grade spirit stone. I wonder if it's enough to pay? With a high-grade spirit stone, and some things that could be sold, Shi Xian and Du Bai were not too worried about the problem of not being able to pay. It couldn't be that these ordinary materials were more expensive than magical artifacts, right? Let's settle the bill. Shi Xian took out the high-grade spirit stone that Liu had given him and handed it over calmly. If this spirit stone was not enough, the shop assistant would naturally tell him. If it was enough, she would naturally give him change. This avoided exposing the fact that the two of them were bumpkins. Ah, a high-grade spirit stone? Seeing the high-grade spirit stone that Shi Xian took out, the shop assistant exclaimed, and then a hint of eagerness appeared in her eyes. Nouveau riche. This was definitely a nouveau riche. Such a nouveau riche had only bought such a small amount of things. How could it be enough? If they didn't spend a large sum of money, how could she let them go out like this? Dear guests, this shop is a small business. The value of your high-grade spirit stone is too high. We can't give you change. The shop assistant rolled her eyes, and a trace of embarrassment appeared on her face. A high-grade spirit stone is not worth mentioning to you. However, a high-grade spirit stone is worth 10,000 middle-grade spirit stones, and a middle-grade spirit stone is worth 10,000 low-grade spirit stones. You've only bought a few hundred low-grade spirit stones. We can't give you change. The value is so high? Du Bai and Shi Xian looked at each other, their hearts full of shock. How could something that the Crown Prince casually gave out be so valuable? No wonder he was the common ancestor of the two great immortal sects. What was a nouveau riche? This was a nouveau riche. Casually throwing out 100 million, he was simply too nouveau riche. Dear guests, our shop has a high-grade treasure. The shop assistant promoted with a smile. Dear guests, seeing that you're even holding a magic tool in your hand, I presume that your storage bag was damaged in the battle. Our shop has a high-grade storage bag. Please take a look. Immediately, the shop assistant immediately took out two simple and exquisite storage bags. Dear guests, this is a Qiankuan bag refined by the Penglai Immortal Sect's master refiner. Compared to ordinary storage bags, it has more space and is more solid. It won't be easily damaged. The shop assistant smiled sweetly. This kind of treasure is suitable for people with status like you. Qiankuan bag? Not bad, give me two. Although he knew that the shop assistant was flattering him, something like a storage bag was indeed a must. Even if Du Bai had a jade slip storage space, he had to take a Qiankuan bag and pretend to have one on him. Otherwise, wouldn't it be telling others that he had a space treasure on him? Quickly come and snatch it. Two Qiankuan bags, 3,200 middle-grade spirit stones. Seeing the two of them by the Qiankuan bags, the shop assistant was overjoyed. Selling so many things, she earned more from the commission than usual in a year. However, since they were nouveau riches, how could buying so few things be enough? She still wanted them to continue buying. Dear guests, a high-grade flying sword is a symbol of status. Important people like you naturally don't lack high-grade flying swords. However, these two flying swords, the Breeze Sword and the Moonlight Sword, were unearthed from a medieval cavern and are unique treasures. While introducing, the shop assistant took out two flying swords. One was a moon-white flying sword, emitting traces of cold air. The blade of the sword shone with bright moonlight. This was the Moonlight Sword. The other flying sword was light green in color, as if it was an invisible breeze. This was the Breeze Sword. Dear guests, this is the two flying swords that the owner of our humble shop obtained when he went to the western wasteland with the masters of the Penglai Immortal Sect to explore the ruins of ancient cultivators. It was only because of the lack of a sacrificial refining method that these two flying swords were left idle. The shop assistant continued to introduce. These two flying swords have the quality of a spiritual tool. Although there is no sacrificial refining method, they can still display the power of a high-grade magic tool. Moreover, this kind of unique treasure is very suitable for the two of you to display your status. Moonlight sword? When Dubai saw this flying sword, he suddenly discovered that it was somewhat compatible with his grand crescent blade. If he wanted to enter a sect, it was very suitable for him to use this thing to conceal his innate divine ability. I'll buy it. Shi Xian also felt that the breeze sword was very compatible with his samadhi heavenly wind true qi. Since he also wanted to conceal his cultivation technique, he also bought it without hesitation. Many thanks to the two of you. The shop assistant's face was full of smiles. Being nouveau riche was so good. Chapter 10:25. What an eye-opening experience! After shopping, Dubai and Shi Xian settled down in an inn in the market. They took out the information they had bought and started to plan their next move. Seeing the information on history of the cultivation world and the 8 major sects of the world, the two of them were full of admiration. The most suitable sect for me is the Moon sect? After some research, Dubai found that his lunar crescent blade and 9 nether cold chi were very compatible with the Moon sect's ice spirit holy light. However, the Moon sect only accepted female disciples. The Moon sect's techniques were special. Although they had the Tao of the ancient Tao of ice, the Tao of ice was incomplete, so the techniques were only suitable for females. I'm very suitable for the Penglai immortal sect. I saw the introduction of the Penglai immortal sect. Their most famous techniques are the Shinshao True Technique, Sky River True Technique, and Immortal Slaying Sword Casket. Shinshao True Technique is closer to mine. Shi Xian chose the sect he wanted to join in the future, then looked at Dubai with some confusion. Our backgrounds are similar. Why is your path not suitable for Penglai? Until now, Shi Xian still thought that Dubai also inherited the Shangqing collection. Everyone's path is different. Naturally, there's a big difference. Dubai also found that Shi Xian's cultivation was very different from his own. He focused on uniqueness, eternally unmoving uniqueness. However, Shi Xian's path seemed to be the opposite extreme. His cultivation focused on the changes between yin and yang. One was active and the other was still. They were opposites, but they were also one. The great freedom demonic master had opened up 2 completely opposite paths from one technique. Dubai secretly exclaimed in his heart. Apart from the Moon sect, is there anything else suitable for you? Shi Xian also understood Dubai's logic, so he asked Dubai. I looked at the introduction of the Ying's Huxian school. Their true impartation cultivation arts are mainly the commentary on Taishang 9 irregularities scripture, true explanation of formless divine wind, and Taisu lotus tranquility scripture. Dubai knocked on the jade slip and frowned slightly. Among these 3 true inheritances, only the Grand Essence Lotus Tranquility Sutra is related to my cultivation. However, these are all outsiders' words, and the real situation is unknown. That's true. Shi Xian nodded. The Penglai immortal sect that he had chosen also had this problem. Who knew if this introduction was real or fake? After all, how could outsiders know the truth about the true inheritances of the great sects? Generally speaking, such introductions are common knowledge in the cultivation world. At most, it was only superficial. However, we're just putting up a front. A smile appeared on Dubai's cold face. We can only take one step at a time. Furthermore, it was still unknown whether he would be able to enter the sect or not. You make it sound as if the 8 great sects in the world were chosen by us. Ha ha. That's right. Shi Xian clapped and laughed. After half a year, the 2 sects of Penglai and Yingzhou will open their gates and recruit disciples. Let's cultivate here for a while first. After half a year, we'll go and see the situation. Dubai nodded to Shi Xian, then got up and prepared to return to his room. Buzz, suddenly, the restriction on the door inexplicably opened. Boom! A green fireball the size of a basin suddenly rushed in from outside the door. Immediately after, there were 4 or 5 ice arrows, golden sabers, thunder and lightning, and sword rays transformed from talismans. For a moment, fireballs, ice arrows, golden sabers, sword rays, and dazzling thunder and lightning enveloped the entire room. Damn it! Someone attacked the rented inn as well? Although they had been warned that the cultivation world was not a kind place, and killing and robbing were very common. However, the two of them never thought that they would encounter an attack in this kind of rented inn. Reincarnation banner, protect us! Shi Xian shouted and waved his hand to take out the black banner. It sprinkled a black light curtain in front of the two of them. Boom! A series of spells heavily bombarded the black light curtain, bursting out a violent roar. The wind surged and shook Shi Xian so much that he staggered. The moment this tremor occurred, the runes on the walls of the entire room lit up one after another, and all the movements were eliminated without a trace. It was normal for the talismans on the walls to light up. After all, it was a room rented by cultivators. If there were any movements during the cultivation process, and there was no protection, wouldn't the inn be blown up? However, after these talisman arrays lit up, they also covered the movements in the room. There must be a mole in this inn. Shi Xian furrowed his brows tightly. He was furious. The door control was opened inexplicably, and it was so clear about the facilities in the inn. There must be a mole in the inn, or even, this was a black inn. Go. This is enough for us to eat for the rest of our lives. Yes. Spiritual weapons, flying swords, upper-grade magic weapons, and upper-grade spiritual stones. After this, we'll be rich. Several shouts came from outside the door. Then, several figures rushed into the room. The rooms in this inn rented by cultivators were not like those in ordinary inns. The whole room was like a cave residence. Not only did it have a courtyard, but it also had several rooms. 7 or 8 figures rushed into the room, and the last one closed the door. Go kill them! A middle-aged Taoist priest, who seemed to be the leader, waved a shining golden spike and attacked the two of them. At the same time, several other people took out their talismans and magic weapons and attacked the two of them together. Immovable mountain! Dubai waved his hand, and a talisman flew out of his hand. A yellow light lit up, revealing a mountain of light, firmly protecting the two of them in the light. Bang, bang, bang! The attacks hit the shadow of the mountain, but it was like ants trying to shake a tree. There was no effect at all. Damn it! High-grade talisman! High-grade talisman, so what? Did you see? They're rich. They're rich. Kill them and we won't have to worry about food and drink for the rest of our lives. Fight! Break this turtle shell! The group of cultivators roared and attacked the mountain formed by the light in a frenzy. Yes, we're rich. We're rich. We can kill you with money. Dubai's cold face showed a hint of killing intent. Since you know we're rich, you still dare to have ideas about us? Is it difficult to buy a few high-grade talismans? Do you think I only know how to buy defensive talismans and not offensive talismans? Frost and Thunder Talisman. A talisman flashed in his hand, and his spiritual power was activated. Boom! A loud sound was heard, and the ice and snow in the sky whistled. Damn it! The cold air exploded, and under the ice and frost, countless ice cones flew out like raindrops. It was overwhelming and covered the whole room. This group of cultivators were basically all out-of-body realm itinerant cultivators. High-grade talismans were the power of the peak of chi channeling. Under the ice and frost, the group of cultivators was pierced by the ice cones. What a waste! What a waste! When Shi Xian saw that Dubai had thrown out 2 high-level talismans in a row, he felt his heart ache. Let's keep them busy for a while. Even if we only use our minor innate divine abilities, we can still kill them. If we don't do that, how can we intimidate them? Du Bai glanced at Shi Xian and looked at the door. I have money and I have a lot of high-grade talismans. Fellow Taoist outside, don't you want to come in and try? Chapter 10:26. Blinded by greed and taking risks out of desperation. You are seeking your own death. At this time, Shi Xian also reacted. He snorted and waved his hand to take out the Qingfeng sword that he had just bought. This flying sword that had fallen from a spiritual weapon to a high-grade magic weapon was just bought and had not been refined yet. It could not exert any power at all. The magic weapons in this world were very special. You could not dominate the world immediately after getting a high-grade magic weapon. Any magic weapon would take a long time to refine and master every layer of restriction in the magic weapon. Only then could the magic weapon's power be exerted. However, Shi Xian did not want to exert the magic weapon's power. If it could not exert its power, why not self-destruct? I have money. I will use a high-grade magic weapon to self-destruct and kill you. You know that we have money and still dare to come to us? We still have 3 high-grade magic weapons in our hands. Even if a cultivator at the peak of the Qi channeling stage attacks us, they will also be blown to pieces. Just a few out-of-body stage thieves, you are really courting death. Du Bai's cold voice spread far and wide. Sensing that someone had appeared outside the door, Du Bai and Shi Xian's words were naturally a deterrent. They were unfamiliar with this place. Who knew how many people would come for them? If they did not make a strong deterrent, they would not have peace in the future. Fellow cultivators, Ming Qingyue is here to apologize. At this time, a woman's soft voice came from outside the door. Buzz, the restriction on the door opened and a young girl in purple appeared at the door with 4 guards in black. The young girl in purple was tall and slender. She had willowy eyebrows and phoenix eyes, a fine nose and pink lip. She was very beautiful. However, she did not have the slightest sense of weakness. Instead, she looked valiant and powerful. In Shi Xian and Du Bai's senses, this Ming Qingyue had a faint dragon's aura. The 4 guards in black beside her were wearing the same clothes. There was a white crescent moon emblem on their chest. The 4 guards were equally mighty and majestic, and their auras were extraordinary. What was even more frightening was that the purple-clothed girl and the black-clothed guard faintly emitted an aura that seemed to connect with heaven and earth. Clearly, these people were all Qi gatherer cultivators. If 5 Qi drawing realm cultivators came knocking on their door, even if they detonated 3 high-grade magic tools, they would at most perish together. Seeing these 5 people, Du Bai and Shi Xian's faces turned grave. Qingyue is the manager of the Bright Moon Lane. Fellow Taoists, you are renting a room in the Bright Moon Lane, but such a thing happened. Qingyue is very sorry. Please forgive me. Ming Qingyue bowed apologetically to the 2 of them. What a coincidence! Du Bai glanced at Ming Qingyue and the others with a sneer at the corner of his mouth. His expression didn't relax at all. What do you mean? As a black-robed guard heard Du Bai's words, he immediately roared out, My master is a divine soul stage cultivator and a Peng Lai true disciple. The entire Bright Moon Square belongs to the Ming family. What kind of status did Miss have? Why would he put your little wealth in his eyes? How dare you mock us? Ming Yen, shut up. Ming Qingyue stopped the guard and looked at the 2 of them apologetically. This matter is indeed Qingyue's fault. Please forgive me. Ming Qingyue stretched out her hand and called out, Bring him up. Immediately after, another guard escorted a man forward. Fellow Taoists, this is the waiter of the inn. It was he who colluded with outsiders that caused the 2 of you to be attacked in the inn. I will hand him over to the 2 of you. You can deal with him at your own discretion. With that, Ming Qingyue waved her hand. The guard escorted the man to the 2 of them. Thank you. Seeing this and connecting it to Ming Qingyue's identity, Shi Xian and Du Bai were relieved. The entire Bright Moon Square was the property of the Ming family. With Ming Qingyue's wealth, she naturally wouldn't have any ideas about them. What's more, Ming Qingyue's father was a true disciple of Peng Lai, a divine soul expert. Shi Xian and Du Bai's wealth was considered very rich among rogue cultivators, but compared to the true disciples of such a large sect, it was not worth mentioning. Qingyue's management was poor, please forgive me. Seeing that the two of them no longer pursued the matter, Ming Qingyue also breathed a sigh of relief. Her parents had gone to Alcade Island to attend the birthday banquet, and Ming Qingyue had volunteered to be the manager of the Bright Moon Square. She didn't expect such a thing to happen. If she didn't deal with it strictly and didn't manage the Bright Moon Square well, wouldn't it seem that Ming Qingyue was incompetent? Miss Qingyue is too polite. Shi Xian cupped his hands and thanked Ming Qingyue. Since he had plans to enter the Peng Lai sect, he naturally had to contact the daughter of the Peng Lai true disciple and learn more about the Peng Lai sect. Fellow Taoists, Qingyue is very sorry that such a thing has happened. Ming Qingyue smiled apologetically and continued, there are still a few good cave residences under the Ling Ri Peak that are vacant. As compensation, you two fellow Taoists can stay in the Ling Ri Peak cave residences for free. If that's the case, we accept it. They were definitely worried about staying in this inn. Since Ming Qingyue had offered compensation, the two of them didn't refuse. They had just arrived and didn't know many things about the cultivation world. It was also very useful to contact this Ming Qingyue and understand some things. Both of you, please follow Qingyue to the Ling Ri Peak. With that said, Ming Qingyue took the two of them out of the inn and headed to the Ling Ri Peak. Fellow Taoists, are you here to participate in the spiritual conference in half a year? On the way to the Ling Ri Peak, Ming Qingyue spoke to the two of them. We have the same intention. Shi Xian was about to talk to Ming Qingyue. Seeing that Ming Qingyue spoke, he quickly continued, it's just that we have just arrived and don't know much about the Peng Lai spiritual conference. We don't have confidence in our hearts. The Master Jin Dan presiding over the spiritual conference this time is the grim thunder god Mo Yuan. Master Mo Yuan is impartial and impartial. As long as you meet the standards, there will be no problem. Listening to Ming Qingyue's tone, it seemed that she admired this grim thunder god very much. I wonder what are the criteria for the Peng Lai spiritual conference to recruit disciples? This question was what Shi Xian was most concerned about. He quickly took this opportunity to ask. Du Bai was also listening attentively. Although he planned to join the Yingzhou sect, both were one of the 8 major sects. The criteria for recruiting disciples should be somewhat similar. In terms of cultivation, as long as you are in the out-of-body realm, it will be fine. However, the Peng Lai spiritual conference not only looks at cultivation, but also at one's temperament. Speaking of this, Ming Qingyue smiled and shook her head. As for how to test one's temperament, it depends on the master presiding over the spiritual conference. Oh yes, I will also participate in this Peng Lai spiritual conference. If everyone can join the sect by then, we will still be in the same sect. Miss Qingyue has not joined the sect yet? Looking at your cultivation, it seems that you have already drawn qi into your body? Shi Xian and Du Bai were a little surprised. Ming Qingyue's father was a true disciple of Peng Lai. Why hadn't his daughter joined the sect yet? The Peng Lai spiritual conference is held once every 10 years. I was still young last time. My parents did not allow me to go, so I could only wait until now. As she spoke, everyone came to a cliff. Ming Qingyue reached out and took out 2 tokens and handed them to Du Bai and Ming Qingyue. 2 brothers, this is the Ling Sun Peak Cave residence. You two can rest for the time being. Thank you. After receiving the cave residence token, the two thanked Ming Qingyue. At this time, the waiter who was caught in the inn was also escorted over. Du Bai was too lazy to deal with this person. He threw the waiter to Shi Xian, opened the cave residence's door, and walked in. Okay, I will deal with it. Shi Xian shrugged his shoulders and carried the waiter into his cave residence. Then, Shi Xian heard a secret from the waiter. Chapter 10:27. What? A secret passage into the Starfall Sea? Hearing this secret from the waiter, Shi Xian was shocked. According to the history of the cultivation world, the Starfall Sea was the site of a great battle between golden immortals in ancient times. Countless stars fell into the East Sea, forming a death zone. The Starfall Sea looked no different from an ordinary sea, but there were countless cracks in the Starfall Sea. Even a grandmaster like Jean Dan would die if he entered the densely packed cracks in the Starfall Sea. Now, after listening to the waiter's explanation, this group of robbers' lair was actually in the Starfall Sea's inner sea. This greatly shocked Shi Xian. This secret passage can be used as an escape route. If one day I am chased to the point that I have nowhere to run, I can use this secret passage to hide in the Starfall Sea. Shi Xian waved his sword and beheaded the waiter who had colluded with the robbers to harm his customers. Then, he burned the waiter to ashes. Shi Xian was a man of science. He was meticulous in his thinking, and he had to consider the consequences of failure before considering victory. He had to plan ahead for everything. This was his style. In the cultivation world, the strong preyed on the weak. Who knew if one day he would be chased to the point that he had nowhere to run? With this secret passage, it would be a way out. After settling down in the cave, Du Bai and Shi Xian cultivated step by step as they waited for the spiritual conference half a year later. The two of them cultivated leisurely, but Li Yu was annoyed. I say, why are you guys guarding me like this? Do you think I will get lost? Li Yu was so depressed that he wanted to vomit blood when he saw the sect leaders of Penglai and Yingzhou following behind him. You guys are the leaders of the sections. Don't you have anything to do at home? Serving the Grandmaster is our most important task at the moment. Penglai sect leader Zhang Jingyan smiled and bowed. However, he was cursing in his heart. How can you not get lost? You have run away so many times. If it wasn't for this old Taoist keeping a close eye on you, who knows where you would have run off to? Shenxiao's patriarch ordered us to take good care of patriarch. How could we dare to neglect it? Dong Xuanzi, the sect master of Ying State, followed Li Yu step by step. You Shenxiao, Li Yu gnashed his teeth. If it wasn't for this evil woman, I would be living a carefree life right now, wreaking havoc everywhere. How could he still be watched so closely? Speak. What is your goal? Li Yu turned around and looked at the two sect masters with his arms crossed. It's our honor to serve the patriarch. What purpose do we have? Zhang Jingyan, the sect master of Penglai, smiled. Who are you kidding? Li Yu rolled his eyes. Although I'm only 4 years old, you can't treat me like a child, right? Without a purpose? Very well. Then I won't meddle in your affairs. This Zhang Jingyan and Dong Xuanzi looked at each other, and the two of them fell to their knees in front of Li Yu. Patriarch, please be merciful and bestow us the true Tao. TCH, isn't this the purpose? Li Yu pursed his lips. All these years, Yu Shenxiao has never taught you the complete true teachings of Yu Yu's Tao. Don't you think there's a reason for this? It must be because we are unworthy. Our cultivation is not enough, and our morals are not cultivated. It's difficult for us to enter the eyes of Shenxiao's patriarch. The two old Taoists shook their heads with bitter smiles. Bullshit. Li Yu snorted and pointed to the sky. Do you see? The 27 brightest stars in the sky. That's the golden immortal Tao ancestor. After teacher Yu Yu transcended this world, even senior apprentice brother Qing Yunzi fell. The battle of the great Tao is a matter of life and death. At this point, Li Yu turned to look at the two sect masters. Once the Tao of Yin and Yang appears, a battle of the great Tao will erupt with a golden immortal Tao ancestor. Now, Do you still want Yu Yu's true teachings? If Yu Yu really teaches you, it'll be the end of your sect. This. Even if I don't inherit Yu Yu's true teachings, please have mercy and bestow the true teachings to me, Patriarch. The Tao of Yin and Yang and the battle of the great Tao were too far away. Now, there weren't many who could enter the essence soul realm in the two sections. Each sect only had 3 nascent divinity cultivation methods, which were pieced together in bits and pieces. Now that this living ancestor was here, if they didn't beg for a few true teachings of the great Tao, these 2 sect masters would have lived for nothing. Not asking for Yu Yu's true teachings? Yes, at least you're wise. If one wasn't a main character like Shi Xian, one wouldn't be able to fight against a golden immortal as a small cultivator and win. After all, no one had his luck. I can create a few great Tao cultivation techniques for this world. I can also use someone as my lab rat. This is something I can still do. Liu thought about it and felt that this was in line with his goal. In this world, he could use his avatar to recultivate the great Tao and create the 2 great Tao of order and matter. Naturally, the more people participated in the verification, the more Liu could grasp the essence. Whether the path of order and matter could work in this world, Liu himself wasn't very confident. If he spent a lot of time and ended up with nothing in the end, it wouldn't be worth it. Therefore, he made more preparations and let the disciples of the 2 sects cultivate the techniques he created. Through so many people cultivating and comprehending, Liu could at least take the opportunity to obtain the heaven and earth laws that everyone comprehended. Once his avatar failed to create a great Tao, he would at least gain something. Alright, seeing that you guys are quite diligent, I'll give you an opportunity. With an idea in mind, Liu planned to spread the great Tao and recruit guinea pigs. Thank you, Ancestral Master. Thank you, Ancestral Master. Hearing this, the 2 sect leaders cried tears of joy and kowtowed repeatedly. I have 9 techniques of the great Tao, all of which lead to the unification of the Tao and can become a golden immortal. However, to achieve creation and eternity, it depends on each person's talent and opportunity. Liu himself didn't know if he could achieve eternity in this world. His cultivation technique could at most be deduced to the level of a golden immortal. Even he wasn't sure about the later stages. Naturally, the cultivation technique that was passed down could only be passed down to the level of a golden immortal. The later stages could only be left to fate. Directly to the level of a golden immortal? That's great. That's great. Thank you, Ancestral Master. Thank you, Ancestral Master. The cultivation techniques of the 2 sects could reach the primordial soul realm, but the later stages had to rely on oneself to comprehend and explore. With 9 true inheritances of the great Tao that led to the level of a golden immortal, it was simply overjoyed. These are the 9 techniques of the great Tao. They are divided into metal, wood, water, fire, earth, wind, thunder, light, and darkness. They describe the principles of heaven and earth. Cultivate well. With a wave of his hand, 2 light spots entered the sea of consciousness of the 2 old Taoists. The 9 techniques of the great Tao were all transmitted into their souls. Endless information surged. Even though the 2 of them were already supremacies of Yin masters, they were still dizzy from the huge flow of information. A moment later, the 9 techniques of the great Tao were all imprinted in their souls. Feeling the profound and unfathomable true inheritances of the great Tao, the 2 old Taoists were so surprised that they cried and kowtowed repeatedly. Thus, Liu's guinea pig plan officially began. Chapter 10:28. What are you 2 still doing here? Why aren't you going back? After passing on the technique, Liu realized that the 2 old men were still following behind him. They had no intention of leaving. We are here to serve the Ancestral Master, scram, 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 Serve my ass. 2 old men coming to serve him? How could they serve him like this? Don't tell me you can't find any beauties in the sect. Cough cough. Then, I'll send a message to the sect first. Liu was in the middle of the East Sea, between Immortal Island and Penglai Island. He was tens of thousands of miles away from the 2 sections. 2 sword beams shot up. The 2 of them used flying swords to inform the sect. A moment later, 2 beams of light flew over from the horizon. When they landed, they were actually 2 beauties. One was Penglai sect's Jin Dan ancestral master, Yu Linglong. The other was Immortal Mingqin ancestral master, Ingzhou sect's Jin Dan ancestral master. The 2 of you served the ancestral master well. After instructing the 2 of them, the 2 old Taoists bowed and left. They rushed back to the sect. The true teachings of the 9 sects' golden immortals. Nothing could go wrong with such a peerless Tao. Sending it back to the sect was the right thing to do. Greetings, ancestral master. Yu Linglong and Immortal Mingqin bowed to Liu together. All right. Although the 2 irksome old men had left, 2 beautiful women had arrived. But he still had no freedom. Are there any fun places around here? Liu stood up and looked around. He wanted to find some fun. Fun? The 2 fairies looked at each other, confused. What was fun? What was fun? These 2 were experienced homebodies. They had been homebodies for hundreds of years. How would they know what was fun? Since they started cultivating, they had never had any fun. Forget it. Forget it. Liu also knew that asking them to find something fun was really asking for too much. Let's go take a look at your Penglai Island first. After being welcomed by the 2 sects, Liu didn't even go to Penglai Island. Instead, he settled down on the small island between the 2 sects and held a greeting ceremony. Oh good! Alright. Upon hearing Liu's words, Penglai sect's Yu Linglong was a little flustered. With Yu Linglong's fiery temper, she was an expert at killing people. But taking care of a child, taking care of the patriarch was too much for her. Although Fairy Mingqin of Ingzhou was not as extreme as Yu Linglong, she was also a cold person and did not know much about such things. Thus, the 2 of them looked at each other in dismay. Take me flying. Didn't you see that the patriarch's cultivation was only at the level of drawing qi into his body? How long would it take for me to fly by myself? Liu fiercely glared at her. Were all female cultivators so stupid and adorable? Oh, yes. Hearing this, the 2 of them hurriedly released streaks of light, and then pulled Liu up at the same time. Idiot! Let go of me! Being pulled by 2 streaks of light, are they trying to tear me apart? Liu roared furiously. The 2 of them also realized that something was wrong. Shocked, they hurriedly let go of Liu. But they let go at the same time. Bam! Our big officer Li suddenly fell to the ground. Scram! Big Boss Li roared furiously. Patriarch, please forgive us. Patriarch, please forgive us. The 2 fairies' faces were full of panic, and they were at a loss. What did I do to deserve this? Liu touched his forehead, and his face was full of depression. Stupid female cultivators, they are not cute at all. The streaks of light flew up again, and this time there was no problem. Yu Linglong carefully controlled the streaks of light, and she flew steadily, not even daring to sway. However, beads of sweat appeared on her forehead, indicating that this guy's operation was very difficult, and the operation was very nervous. According to Yu Linglong's character, she would disappear with a whoosh, and then fly back with a whoosh. When did this kind of slow-driving situation happen? It was really too difficult. Phew, the streaks of light landed on Penglai sect's Dubhe Peak, and Yu Linglong let out a long breath, as if she had put down a huge burden. You 2 go play, I'll take a look around. Liu didn't want these 2 idiotic fellows to follow him around, so he waved his hand at them. But the 2 of them looked hesitant. This is Penglai's territory. Don't tell me something will happen to me? Li Yu's eyes widened as he roared. That's true. The two of them thought that nothing would happen to their patriarch in Penglai, so they did not insist. Then we will wait for you here. I'm finally free. Waving at the two of them, Li Yu stepped onto Dubhe Peak. Although it's called Penglai Island, it's actually quite big. At a glance, the entire Penglai Island was like a vast continent. Mountains towered into the clouds, the land was green, the rivers meandered, and all kinds of spiritual birds soared in the air. Dubhe Peak's heaven-reaching hall. The main hall of Penglai sect? After ascending Dubhe Peak, Li Yu smiled at the sight of the great hall and directly walked through the door. Zhang Jingyan was not there, and there was no one in the hall. Li Yu walked along the hall and came to a door that was emitting a cold air. Great ice-light sky splitting immortal formation? That guy Su Jifei is inside, a frozen cultivation otaku. The cold air coming from behind the door was very strong. Even with the restrictive spell on the door, Li Yu's clone felt cold all over. Su Jifei, open the door and give me a piece of chaos ice to play with. Li Yu reached out and knocked on the door, shouting into the room. Su Jifei was one of the few primordial soul patriarchs of the Penglai sect, and he was also a celestial immortal expert. Primordial soul ghost immortal, Yang soul true immortal, celestial immortal, Tao integration golden immortal. From a half-baked inheritance like the Penglai sect, Su Jifei could still cultivate to the celestial immortal stage. He was indeed very talented. Unfortunately, this guy was also a native transmigrator who had taken over someone else's body. During the Great Tribulation of the First Heaven's Blight, because of the slight disharmony between the soul and the body, he could not pass the tribulation and could only use the chaos ice to freeze himself. So it's the patriarch. Jifei is in deep trouble and cannot welcome you personally. Please forgive me, patriarch. A clear voice came from behind the door. First Heaven's Blight? How big of a deal is that? Give me the chaos ice and I will help you get rid of the tribulation. Li Yu had the Taichu Motetsu and was also interested in the chaos ice. Of course, this thing was called chaos ice, but it had nothing to do with chaos. It could only be said that it was formed by the ice energy that was born at the beginning of the world. Get rid of the tribulation? Thank you, Patriarch. Thank you, Patriarch. Being trapped in the chaos ice for many years, Su Jifei originally planned to wait until a celestial cultivator appeared in the sect to free him from the ice and reincarnate. Now that he heard Li Yu's words, he was overjoyed. Zhang Jingyan naturally reported to Su Jifei that the Patriarch had bestowed 9 true Tao techniques that could lead one to the golden immortal stage. The Patriarch was very powerful and definitely had a way to solve the problem of the celestial tribulation. As for the chaos ice that the Patriarch wanted, it was not a problem at all. The stronger the white mouse, the better. This celestial immortal white mouse is more in line with I's requirement. Li Yu's face was full of smiles. He planned to do another experiment. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.